Universitas Jember didirikan sejak tanggal 10 November 1964 dengan 5 fakultas, salah satunya Fakultas Pertanian. Dengan tujuan sebagai penyelenggara pendidikan tinggi berkualitas yang mengembangkan sistem pertanian industrial berwawasan lingkungan. Sejak tahun 2016 sampai dengan sekarang, terdapat 11 jumlah program studi di lingkungan Fakultas Pertanian Universitas. Terdiri dari 8 program studi strata sarjana atau S1. Yaitu program studi agribisnis, agroteknologi, agronomi, ilmu tanah, proteksi tanaman, penyuluhan pertanian, ilmu pertanian perkebunan, dan program studi peternakan. 2 program studi terakhir, yaitu program studi ilmu pertanian perkebunan dan program studi peternakan, menempati lokasi kampus Universitas Jember di Bondowoso. Selain itu, ada 3 program studi pasca sarjana, yaitu program studi Magister Agribisnis S2 dan program studi Magister Agronomi S2, serta program studi Doktor Ilmu Pertanian S3.
Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember didirikan karena beberapa isu strategis dengan pengembangan sumber daya manusia yang ada di negara kita, di mana mencakup bidang pendidikan atau pembelajaran, kemahasiswaan atau alumni, dan juga manajemen internal. Oleh karena itu, tim kami mencoba untuk menganalisis posisi Fakultas Pertanian sekarang pada posisi yang bagaimana. Ternyata dengan analisis lingkungan eksternal dan lingkungan internal, maka Fakultas Pertanian pada posisi strategi pertumbuhan. Untuk mencapai strategi atau pertumbuhan yang lebih tinggi lagi, lebih cepat lagi, maka Fakultas Pertanian mempunyai visi. Yang pertama adalah menyelenggarakan pendidikan tinggi yang dikelola secara profesional, berorientasi pada mutu, keterbukaan, dan peningkatan daya saing. Yang kedua adalah menyelenggarakan kegiatan pendidikan, penelitian, pengabdian kepada masyarakat yang inovatif secara integrasi berorientasi pada pengembangan sistem pertanian industrial berwawasan lingkungan. Maka strategi yang kita tempuh ada jangka panjang, jangka menengah, dan jangka pendek. Di tahun 2019, 2021, Fakultas Pertanian mempunyai strategi pemantapan kurikulum, penguatan sumber daya, manajemen tersertifikasi, peningkatan kerjasama intern dan internasional dalam rangka MBKM, dan juga menumbuhkan talenta mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian. Tahun 2022 sampai dengan tahun 2024 atau sampai tahun 2026, strateginya adalah optimalisasi dan ekspansi kegiatan pendidikan, penelitian, dan pengabdian dengan lulusan dan karya serta unggul di wilayah Asia Tenggara dan eksis di kawasan Asia. Nah, di dalam kegiatannya tadi, maka semuanya akan dievaluasi dengan sistem evaluasi mutu internal yang dilakukan secara rutin oleh GPM dan BPM.
Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember telah bekerja sama dengan universitas di kancah internasional, antara lain dengan Jepang, Malaysia, Pakistan, Turki, Korea Selatan, dan India. Program yang telah dan sedang dilakukan yaitu student exchange atau pertukaran mahasiswa, penelitian bersama dosen antar negara, program kampus merdeka seperti MBKM dan KMMI, program kerjasama dengan beberapa kampus di Indonesia seperti Universitas 11 Maret, Universitas Jenderal Sudirman, dan lainnya, serta beberapa perusahaan dan balai besar penelitian. Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember memiliki keunggulan yang menjadikan spesifikasi dari faktor Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember dibanding dengan yang lainnya, yaitu kita fokus pada pertanian organik.
Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember memiliki sumber daya manusia yang terdiri dari 62% dosen dengan pendidikan magister, 32% dosen dengan pendidikan doktor, 6% guru besar, serta sarana dan prasarana pendukung proses pembelajaran yang terdiri dari 25 ruang kuliah terstandarisasi, 27 laboratorium yang tersebar pada 8 program studi sarjana, laboratorium CBT. Selain itu juga Fakultas Pertanian memiliki laboratorium rumah kaca dan kebun percobaan. Kebun percobaan yang dimiliki oleh Fakultas Pertanian digunakan sebagai laboratorium lapang. Kebun percobaan ini memiliki luas 14 hektar yang lokasinya berada di luar kampus Jember. Kebun percobaan ini mendukung kegiatan penelitian, juga menguatkan visi Universitas Jember yang unggul di bidang ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi yang berwawasan lingkungan. Selain itu, Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember juga memiliki desa binaan, yaitu Desa Sidomulyo, Kecamatan Silo. Juga menjalin kerjasama dengan beberapa instansi pemerintah, BUMN, dan swasta sebagai mitra pelaksanaan Tridharma perguruan tinggi bagi para dosen dan mahasiswa, baik yang berada di dalam negeri maupun di luar negeri.
Adanya kerjasama kementerian ini membantu kami dalam memperluas pemasaran hingga masyarakat.
Dukungan Fakultas Pertanian terhadap potensi dan pengembangan minat mahasiswa sangat luar biasa, seperti adanya laboratorium agroteknologi, agribisnis, ilmu tanah, hama penyakit tanaman, dan agronomi sebagai penunjang praktik mahasiswa baik praktikum maupun penelitian, ruang belajar yang nyaman, perpustakaan yang digunakan untuk mencari banyak referensi, sepeda paperta sebagai transportasi mahasiswa dalam kegiatan, dan mobil kayu sebagai penunjang di dalam kegiatan kemahasiswaan. Selain itu, salah satu penunjang soft skill yang diberikan oleh Fakultas Pertanian adanya radio agribisnis atau radis dan studio artis yang bergerak di bidang audiovisual, videografi, dan fotografi yang dapat menunjang kegiatan minat bakat mahasiswa. Dengan banyaknya penunjang dan fasilitas yang dimiliki oleh fakultas dapat menjadi media dalam pengembangan soft skill dan kemampuan mahasiswa baik di bidang akademik maupun non-akademik.
bergabung dengan Mapansa. Untuk yang menyukai seni, silahkan bergabung di Panjalu. Dan untuk yang berkegiatan di paduan suara, silahkan mengikuti siar. Khusus untuk siar ini, tahun ini sudah mencapai prestasi nomor 1 juara internasional. Nah, unit kegiatan organisasi mahasiswa ini kami siapkan betul-betul untuk menunjang mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian.
Bicara mengenai organisasi dan juga kuliah, maka di dalamnya akan ada prestasi yang diberikan sebagai keunggulan di Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember dari kegiatan dan juga penyelenggaraan akademik dan non-akademik, maka organisasi mahasiswa sebagai pendukung dalam kegiatan organisasi di tingkat fakultas. Ada beberapa kegiatan dan juga kejuaraan yang telah diraih oleh organisasi mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian. Di antaranya, Himpunan Mahasiswa Program Studi telah mendapatkan program holistik pembinaan dan pemberdayaan desa, diperoleh oleh program studi ilmu penyuluhan pertanian dan ilmu peternakan. Kemudian, untuk unit kegiatan mahasiswa olahraga telah mendapatkan juara dan lomba di tingkat nasional dan juga provinsi dalam bidang e-sport dan juga bidang olahraga lainnya. Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember telah memberikan fasilitas untuk pengembangan inovasi mahasiswa dan menjadikan mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian berprestasi dalam bidang akademik dan non-akademik. Saya bangga menjadi mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember.
Dengan adanya 11 program studi, terdiri dari 8 strata sarjana, 2 magister, dan 1 doktor, diharapkan dapat mewujudkan visi misi dari Fakultas Pertanian, dan diharapkan dapat menghasilkan lulusan yang memiliki kemampuan akademik dalam menerapkan, mengembangkan, dan atau memperkaya khasanah pengetahuan serta teknologi di bidang pertanian yang berorientasi pada pertanian industrial, berwawasan lingkungan. Universitas Jember didirikan sejak tanggal 10 November 1964 dengan 5 fakultas, salah satunya Fakultas Pertanian. Dengan tujuan sebagai penyelenggara pendidikan tinggi berkualitas yang mengembangkan sistem pertanian industrial berwawasan lingkungan. Sejak tahun 2016 sampai dengan sekarang, terdapat 11 jumlah program studi di lingkungan Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember. Terdiri dari 8 program studi strata sarjana atau S1. Yaitu program studi agribisnis, agroteknologi, agronomi, ilmu tanah, proteksi tanaman, penyuluhan pertanian, ilmu pertanian perkebunan, dan program studi peternakan. 2 program studi terakhir, yaitu program studi ilmu pertanian perkebunan dan program studi peternakan, menempati lokasi kampus Universitas Jember di Bondowoso. Selain itu, ada 3 program studi pasca sarjana, yaitu program studi Magister Agribisnis S2 dan program studi Magister Agronomi S2, serta program studi Doktor Ilmu Pertanian S3.
Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember didirikan karena beberapa isu strategis dengan pengembangan sumber daya manusia yang ada di negara kita, di mana mencakup bidang pendidikan atau pembelajaran, kemahasiswaan atau alumni, dan juga manajemen internal. Oleh karena itu, tim kami mencoba untuk menganalisis posisi Fakultas Pertanian sekarang pada posisi yang bagaimana. Ternyata dengan analisis lingkungan eksternal dan lingkungan internal, maka Fakultas Pertanian pada posisi strategi pertumbuhan. Untuk mencapai strategi atau pertumbuhan yang lebih tinggi lagi, lebih cepat lagi, maka Fakultas Pertanian mempunyai visi. Yang pertama adalah menyelenggarakan pendidikan tinggi yang dikelola secara profesional, berorientasi pada mutu, keterbukaan, dan peningkatan daya saing. Yang kedua adalah menyelenggarakan kegiatan pendidikan, penelitian, pengabdian kepada masyarakat yang inovatif secara integrasi berorientasi pada pengembangan sistem pertanian industrial berwawasan lingkungan. Maka strategi yang kita tempuh ada jangka panjang, jangka menengah, dan jangka pendek. Di tahun 2019, 2021, Fakultas Pertanian mempunyai strategi pemantapan kurikulum, penguatan sumber daya, manajemen tersertifikasi, peningkatan kerjasama intern dan internasional dalam rangka MBKM, dan juga menumbuhkan talenta mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian. Tahun 2022 sampai dengan tahun 2024 atau sampai tahun 2026, strateginya adalah optimalisasi dan ekspansi kegiatan pendidikan, penelitian, dan pengabdian dengan lulusan dan karya serta unggul di wilayah Asia Tenggara dan eksis di kawasan Asia. Nah, di dalam kegiatannya tadi, maka semuanya akan dievaluasi dengan sistem evaluasi mutu internal yang dilakukan secara rutin oleh GPM dan BPM.
Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember telah bekerja sama dengan universitas di kancah internasional, antara lain dengan Jepang, Malaysia, Pakistan, Turki, Korea Selatan, dan India. Program yang telah dan sedang dilakukan yaitu student exchange atau pertukaran mahasiswa, penelitian bersama dosen antar negara, program kampus merdeka seperti MBKM dan KMMI, program kerjasama dengan beberapa kampus di Indonesia seperti Universitas 11 Maret, Universitas Jenderal Sudirman, dan lainnya, serta beberapa perusahaan dan balai besar penelitian. Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember memiliki keunggulan yang menjadikan spesifikasi dari faktor Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember dibanding dengan yang lainnya, yaitu kita fokus pada pertanian organik.
Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember memiliki sumber daya manusia yang terdiri dari 62% dosen dengan pendidikan magister, 32% dosen dengan pendidikan doktor, 6% guru besar. serta sarana dan prasarana pendukung proses pembelajaran yang terdiri dari 25 ruang kuliah terstandarisasi, 27 laboratorium yang tersebar pada 8 program studi sarjana, laboratorium CBT. Selain itu juga Fakultas Pertanian memiliki laboratorium rumah kaca dan kebun percobaan. Kebun percobaan yang dimiliki oleh Fakultas Pertanian digunakan sebagai laboratorium lapang. Kebun percobaan ini memiliki luas 14 hektar yang lokasinya berada di luar kampus Jember. Kebun percobaan ini mendukung kegiatan penelitian, juga menguatkan visi Universitas Jember yang unggul di bidang ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi yang berwawasan lingkungan. Selain itu, Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember juga memiliki desa binaan, yaitu Desa Sidomulyo, Kecamatan Silo. Juga menjalin kerjasama dengan beberapa instansi pemerintah, BUMN, dan swasta sebagai mitra pelaksanaan Tridharma perguruan tinggi bagi para dosen dan mahasiswa, baik yang berada di dalam negeri maupun di luar negeri.
Adanya kerjasama kemitraan ini membantu kami dalam memperluas pemasaran hingga mancanegara.
Dukungan Fakultas Pertanian terhadap potensi dan pengembangan minat mahasiswa sangat luar biasa, seperti adanya laboratorium agroteknologi, agribisnis, ilmu tanah, hawa penyakit tanaman, dan agronomi sebagai penunjang praktik mahasiswa baik praktikum maupun penelitian, ruang belajar yang nyaman, perpustakaan yang digunakan untuk mencari banyak referensi, sepeda Faperta sebagai transportasi mahasiswa dalam kegiatan, dan mobil kayu sebagai penunjang di dalam kegiatan kemahasiswaan. Selain itu, salah satu penunjang soft skill yang diberikan oleh Fakultas Pertanian adanya radio agribisnis atau radis dan studio advis yang bergerak di bidang audiovisual, videografi, dan fotografi yang dapat menunjang kegiatan minat bakat mahasiswa. Dengan banyaknya penunjang dan fasilitas yang dimiliki oleh fakultas dapat menjadi media dalam pengembangan soft skill dan kemampuan mahasiswa baik di bidang akademik maupun non-akademik.
Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember memiliki 18 ormawa yang terdiri dari 10 organisasi mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember, 6 organisasi himpunan di program studi, ditambah dengan BBM. Kegiatan di alam
mengenai organisasi dan juga kuliah, maka di dalamnya akan ada prestasi yang diberikan sebagai keunggulan di Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember dari kegiatan dan juga penyelenggaraan akademik dan non-akademik, maka organisasi mahasiswa sebagai pendukung dalam kegiatan organisasi di tingkat fakultas. olahraga telah mendapatkan juara dan lomba di tingkat nasional dan juga provinsi dalam bidang e-sport dan juga bidang olahraga lainnya. Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember telah memberikan fasilitas untuk pengembangan inovasi mahasiswa dan menjadikan mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian berprestasi dalam bidang akademik dan non-akademik. Saya bangga menjadi mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember.
Dengan adanya 11 program studi, terdiri dari 8 strata sarjana, 2 magister, dan 1 doktor, diharapkan dapat mewujudkan visi misi dari Fakultas Pertanian, dan diharapkan dapat menghasilkan lulusan yang memiliki kemampuan akademik dalam menerapkan, mengembangkan, dan atau memperkaya khasanah pengetahuan serta teknologi di bidang pertanian yang berorientasi pada pertanian industrial, berwawasan lingkungan. Universitas Jember didirikan sejak tanggal 10 November 1964 dengan 5 fakultas, salah satunya Fakultas Pertanian. Dengan tujuan sebagai penyelenggara pendidikan tinggi berkualitas yang menggunakan sistem pertanian industrial berwawasan lingkungan. Sejak tahun 2016 sampai dengan sekarang, terdapat 11 jumlah program studi di lingkungan Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember. Terdiri dari 8 program studi strata sarjana atau S1. Yaitu program studi agribisnis, agroteknologi, agronomi, ilmu tanah, proteksi tanaman, penyuluhan pertanian, ilmu pertanian perkebunan, dan program studi peternakan.
Cek. Cek 1 2, cek. 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 Cek.
apa menjadi dan praktik baik maupun dan ruang belajar yang nyaman, kekaan yang digunakan untuk mencari banyak referensi. Sepeda paperta kegiatan dan mobil kayu yang dalam salah satu adanya fotografi yang dapat menunjang kegiatan minat bakat mahasiswa. Dengan banyaknya penunjang dan fasilitas yang dimiliki oleh fakultas dapat menjadi media dalam pengembangan soft skill dan kemampuan mahasiswa baik di bidang akademik maupun non-akademik.
Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember memiliki 18 ormawa yang terdiri dari 10 organisasi mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember, 6 organisasi himpunan di program, ditambah dengan bagi adik-adik yang berkegiatan di alam, adik-adik silahkan bergabung dengan Mapansa. Untuk yang menyukai seni, silahkan bergabung di Panjalu. Dan untuk yang berkegiatan di paduan suara, silahkan mengikuti siar. Khusus untuk siar ini, tahun ini sudah mencapai prestasi nomor 1 juara internasional. Nah, unit kegiatan organisasi mahasiswa ini kami siapkan betul-betul untuk menunjang prestasi akademik dan non-akademik adik-adik mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian.
Bicara mengenai organisasi dan juga kuliah, maka di dalamnya akan ada prestasi yang diberikan sebagai keunggulan di Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember dari kegiatan dan juga penyelenggaraan akademik dan non-akademik, maka organisasi mahasiswa sebagai pendukung dalam kegiatan organisasi di tingkat fakultas. Ada beberapa kegiatan dan juga kejuaraan yang telah diraih oleh organisasi mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian. Di antaranya, Himpunan Mahasiswa Program Studi telah mendapatkan program holistik pembinaan dan pemberdayaan desa, diperoleh oleh program studi ilmu penyuluhan pertanian dan ilmu peternakan. Kemudian, untuk unit kegiatan mahasiswa olahraga telah mendapatkan juara dan lomba di tingkat nasional dan juga provinsi dalam bidang e-sport dan juga bidang olahraga lainnya. Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember telah memberikan fasilitas untuk pengembangan inovasi mahasiswa dan menjadikan mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian berprestasi dalam bidang akademik dan non-akademik. Saya bangga menjadi mahasiswa Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember.
Dengan adanya 11 program studi, terdiri dari 8 strata sarjana, 2 magister, dan 1 doktor, diharapkan dapat mewujudkan visi misi dari Fakultas Pertanian. Dan diharapkan dapat menghasilkan lulusan yang memiliki kemampuan akademik dalam menerapkan, mengembangkan, dan atau memperkaya khasanah pengetahuan serta teknologi di bidang pertanian yang berorientasi pada pertanian industrial, berwawasan lingkungan. Universitas Jember didirikan sejak tanggal 10 November 1964 dengan 5 fakultas, salah satunya Fakultas Pertanian. Dengan tujuan sebagai penyelenggara pendidikan tinggi berkualitas yang mengembangkan sistem pertanian industrial berwawasan lingkungan. Sejak tahun 2016 sampai dengan sekarang, terdapat 11 jumlah program studi di lingkungan Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember. Terdiri dari 8 program studi strata sarjana atau S1. Yaitu program studi agribisnis, agroteknologi, agronomi, ilmu tanah, proteksi tanaman, penyuluhan pertanian, ilmu pertanian perkebunan, dan program studi peternakan. 2 program studi terakhir, yaitu program studi ilmu pertanian perkebunan dan program studi peternakan, menempati lokasi kampus Universitas Jember di Bondowoso. Selain itu, ada 3 program studi pasca sarjana, yaitu program studi Magister Agribisnis S2 dan program studi Magister Agronomi S2, serta program studi Doktor Ilmu Pertanian S3.
Fakultas Pertanian Universitas Jember didirikan karena beberapa isu strategis dengan pengembangan sumber daya manusia yang ada di negara, di mana mencakup bidang pendidikan atau pembelajaran, kemahasiswaan atau alumni, dan juga manajemen internal. Oleh karena itu, tim kami mencoba untuk menganalisis posisi Fakultas Pertanian sekarang pada posisi yang bagaimana. Ternyata dengan analisis lingkungan eksternal dan lingkungan internal, maka Fakultas Pertanian pada posisi strategi pertumbuhan. Untuk mencapai strategi atau pertumbuhan yang lebih tinggi lagi, lebih cepat lagi, maka Fakultas Pertanian mempunyai visi. Yang pertama adalah menyelenggarakan pendidikan tinggi yang dikelola secara profesional, berorientasi pada mutu, keterbukaan, dan peningkatan daya saing. Yang kedua adalah menyelenggarakan kegiatan pendidikan, penelitian, pengabdian kepada masyarakat yang inovatif secara integrasi berorientasi pada pengembangan sistem pertanian industrial berwawasan lingkungan. Maka strategi yang kita tempuh ada jangka panjang, jangka menengah, dan jangka. Di tahun 2019, 2021, Fakultas Pertanian mempunyai strategi pemantapan kurikulum, penguatan sumber daya, manajemen tersertifikasi, peningkatan kerjasama intern dan internasional dalam rangka juga menumbuhkan talenta-talenta mahasiswa. Tahun 2022 sampai dengan tahun 2024 atau sampai tahun 2026, strateginya adalah optimalisasi dan ekspansi kegiatan pendidikan, penelitian, dan pengabdian dengan lulusan dan karya serta unggul di wilayah Asia Tenggara dan eksis di kawasan Asia. Nah, di dalam kegiatannya tadi, maka semuanya akan dievaluasi dengan sistem evaluasi mutu internal yang dilakukan secara rutin oleh GPM dan BPM.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, all of the participants in hall and Zoom meetings. Thank you for staying with us and willing to wait for session 2 and 3 to be started. For the next session 2 and 3, the webinar materials will be delivered by Dr. Jean-Marc Roda and Professor Sebastian Gadal. And at the same time, we will be discuss the question from participants and answer from the speakers. And this session will be guided by our moderators, Insinyur Kacung Haryono, MS PhD. And I will read about curriculum vitae of Insinyur Kacung Haryono, MS PhD. Hereby, the description of curriculum vitae of Insinyur Kacung Haryono, MS PhD. He is the Vice Dean of Faculty Agriculture in academic section with areas of expertise plant breeding and the academic history, bachelor degree in Jember University, and then master degree in IPB University, and the doctor program in Curtin University of Technology, Australia. And he have published in 3 national journals, 5 international journals, and 1 international proceedings since 210 to 221. So to Insinyur Kacung Haryono, time is yours.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Dr. Jean. How to spell it? Dr. Jean-Marc Roda. It is right?
We pronounce Jean-Marc Roda, but it's easier if you say Roda. Seperti roda mobil atau roda motor.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attending in this webinar until now. As a moderator, I will lead this webinar until for second session and third session. Yeah, it is second and third session. Okay. The second speaker is Dr. Jean-Marc Roda. Before he speak to us, I will read his CV. If not correct, please let me know, Dr. Jean. How to call him? Dr. Jean, right? Oh, Dr. Roda. Sorry, Dr. Roda. Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Roda will be perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Roda, I will read your CV first to audience. Dr. Jean-Marc Roda is the regional director for Southeast Asian island countries at CIRAD. CIRAD is the French Center for International Cooperation in Agricultural Research for Development. He got master degree of in biology of organism and population and also master in geography, right? And then also he got PhD at Paris Diderot University, France in 2005, right, Dr. Roda? And he live in he based in Jakarta starting September 1st, 2021, and he coordinates SIRAT's collaborative R&D and training program with various partners in the region. Dr. Jean-Marc Roda is the author and co-author of more than 75 research articles, book and book chapters. It is right, Dr. Roda? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, audience, it is a time for Dr. Jean-Marc Roda to speak to us about her article. Please, it is yours. Still mute, Dr. Roda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for this kind introduction. I'm going to share my screen and share with you a presentation. So let me do it first, share my screen. Yeah, okay. You should see now my screen. If I put full screen, yeah, voila. So the discussion of today is about the specific approach by CIRAD of digital agriculture towards precision agriculture. So this slide is not entirely made by me, it's a team. So you have under the names, under the slide, you have the names of the different people who contributed to this slide. And we are collectively, the team of CIRAD is extremely happy to be able to present to you our vision of how we use digital agriculture in order to have better precision agriculture. And this conference at the Faculty of Agriculture at the University of Jember is extremely important to our eyes. We know that there are different kind of universities in Indonesia, and it's extremely important that we can reach the major Faculty of Agriculture like yours. For the people who do not know exactly what is CIRAD, I have here a few slides to remind that, or to give a few details. CIRAD is actually a French agricultural research, and it is devoted to international cooperation. So it's an organization that does mainly international cooperation, and the aim is sustainable development of tropical and Mediterranean agricultural regions. So the main 4 actions that CIRAD is doing is research. So we have a research center in France. It is training. So we have a lot of program trainings with partners, including Indonesian partners. The aim of CIRAD is to provide and create innovation. And those 3 objects, research, training, and innovation, are meant to be tools for the public policy, to support the public policies. So the global mission of CIRAD is applied science and solutions. So in CIRAD, we have a special program called CIRAD Innov Solutions, it creates solutions. And it is a multidisciplinary team of scientists of different backgrounds that work on these issues. So they fundamentally work on co-development, because when you do innovation, you don't do only in the research center in France, you do with the partners. So it's extremely important that CIRAD works with partners all over the world, especially in the case of Indonesia. CIRAD works with Indonesian partners. In the case of University of Jember, we even have a MOU, and we hope this MOU is going to lead to more and more cooperation in the future. So the cooperation with the partners lead to development of new ideas and new innovations in crops or animal-based value chains. And we have a tool, we create something that is called an innovation detector. So we have an incubator in order to incubate new innovations for startups or from teams of R&D, when they have results that have reached a certain level of readiness, it can carry out or transfer to the private sector or to the partners or to the NGOs. So far since the creation in 2015, we had already 75 innovations proposals. 50% of them were completely digital already, digital tools, and that were creating innovations for precision agriculture. So I will give you a few examples of those kind of these different solutions of digital solutions in agriculture and also in the environment sectors that we can use to accelerate success or implementation of precision agriculture in the field. So, for example, tools for food and agri-food technology. These are the tools that help to better source, having a better sourcing strategy, or to improve the food safety, or to know it better, or to decrease the environmental footprint, or to enhance the byproducts. So we have a series of tools around that. We have also a series of tools for natural resources and territories, like sustainable forest, for example, new digital tools to use the remote sensing data. So the remote sensing data exists, but we create new digital tools that can use it to improve our sustainable forest management. Tools for wood and biomass energy, tools for soil and health, for carbon sequestration, for water resource management, and a few others. So here I give you a few names that we are of example of digital tools, and we are going to see them in the slides after. We have a tool called BioFunk tool. It is a digital application that helps to do analysis and diagnostic for soil health and carbon transformation monitoring. We have another tool, for example, which is PlantNet. It's an app. Everyone can carry it on its smartphone. And this one helps to do plant identification by artificial intelligence. And we use with that PlantNet a lot of citizen science. So the application is free, for free. Everyone can download. You can download it this afternoon or tomorrow if you want. And you will see that you can, with that application, you can identify digital plants. Mostly the background is mostly for today in Western countries, temperate countries, but we could use your help at the Faculty of Agriculture to increase the base of, for example, to put the Indonesian plants into the PlantNet. And the fact that it is free, everyone use it, and you can use it as a tool to constitute a database of where the plants. So all the citizens who are using the application are your agents on the field, because each time they spot a plant and the app is identifying some plant, it is like you are doing a gigantic survey at the country level, or at the park level if you have a natural park, or at the forest level if you have a natural forest, or at the Kabupaten level if you apply it at the Kabupaten, whatever. At the level where the citizens are using it, it is like you have a survey for free that is telling you where and what are the plants that are visible in your landscape. We have also another kind of tools, like the tools used for life cycle assessment. So they use the software that runs life cycle assessment, and we call them LCA tools. Some of them are on computer, some of them are on portable mobile applications. I continue with a few other tools for sustainable agriculture. So these help for breeding, actually, to enhance variety creation, the agricultural varieties creation. It helps for crop and soil protection and monitoring, or ecosystem performance for participatory approach. We even have some tools that help for the zoonosis or the livestock production and the animal health. So usually it addresses those that we develop already, address the supply chain or the nutrition issues. Some of them can be used for prediction with near spectral analysis. insect identification, vaccine monitoring, you name it, you have a few of them. So I'm going to give a few other examples. So there is a MASH software. We're going to see pictures about that software after that. It's MASH is an acronym for mapping of sugarcane harvest. We have Pert Expert software that's for the expertise of fertilizing, helping you to design your ideal fertilization for cocoa culture. We have one that is, there are two tools that work together in tandem, one called Fruit and one called Soy Yield. So the first one is extremely powerful to help the farmer to measure its yield of the fruits, and the second one is extending the yield, the production, to the plot of the farm level or even beyond the farm level. For tropical forage for animals, we have also the EasyPred platform. So this is not an app on a web on a phone, but it is a web system. So these are to give you a few of those examples, and this is not invented only by CIRAD. Actually, we work as a network. This network is called DigitAg for digital agriculture. The DigitAg network is already 7 years old. It's based in France mostly. It has 16 partners, more than 500 staff working full-time on it. 29 research units of different universities and research centers are inside the DigitAg network. And we are based on 3 sites, but the Montpellier is the base of CIRAD. CIRAD is in Montpellier. So CIRAD campus hosts 80% of the staff and the forces and the resources for this DigitAg. So it's a very much a CIRAD-led initiative. But you have many French universities and other French, even French smart companies or startups that are contributing to this DigitAg network. So if you need more information later or in the coming weeks, do not hesitate to contact me, and I can put you in contact with the different specialists of the network. What is very important is such a network is made of universities or research centers, made of startups, private startups, but fundamentally the innovation is coming from PhDs. So we have 56 PhDs that are co-funded between different partners, 50 purely labeled PhDs that are belonging to one partner only, 18 postdoctoral research years, 150 master grants, and more than per year 72 months of international mobility. That means you have many people traveling around for this digital ag network. So our ambition is really to foster the development of responsible digital agriculture in France and in the tropical countries. We call it briefly here in southern countries. We try to put together research and higher education. We mix the resources of both, and we create an interdisciplinary approach. So after this a bit institutional presentation, I will dive into how does it work. So basically, we believe that we have 6 main components when we want to achieve complete and sustainable precision agriculture. You need to have a component of the research that is applying on what is the rural society, how does it work, the communities, because not all the solution can work in all communities. So the social rural society component is extremely important. Of course, we have a component of pure innovation, but you need also a component of physical sensors, of data acquisitions, electronic hardcore stuff. You need also to have systems that contribute to an agricultural information ecosystem. You need to be able to process the data, so you need to have expertise and knowledge and capacity in data mining. And you need to be able to do strong, significant and meaningful modeling and simulation. When I say significant modeling, I insist on the fact that you have at least you have many kinds of modeling, but the two big kinds of the modeling, which is blind modeling, where the computer is doing blind AI, blind artificial intelligence. You don't know, it's a black box, you don't know what the computer is doing and giving you prediction. But once you have a lot of AI analysis and you have a lot of data, if you have a sound approach, you try to create models that are explicit, that are full of parameters that you can control, because like this, you can know exactly what the model is predicting, and the model is not anymore a black box. So, of course, these 6 research issues are confronted to 2 main social issues. The society wants a better production. Better production, what is it? It is agroecology, it is phenotyping, the phenology of the plants and the varieties. It is the protection of the crop. You don't want the crop to be eaten by the pests, for example, but you want that to be sustainable. And so you need also sustainable animal production. So that is one mainstream. It's a real challenge. The society wants that, but the society also wants better inclusiveness. So what is inclusiveness? It's like you have services that can be used to advise the farms. It is also when you manage the farms at a territory level. So you have at the landscape level or at the territory level or at the Kabu pattern level, you have a really integrated management. It is very important that your agriculture is really connected and integrated into the value chain. And of course, it has to be suited to the tropical countries. It cannot be a solution that you invent in a temperate country and then you apply it in tropical countries. No, it should be invented in the tropical countries itself. So of course, you use higher education and you use innovation capacities. When you have all of this, you are able to create real innovation. Last slide on where we develop this. So you see that we have activities of our Digit Ag network in America, Latin America, and North America, in Europe, in Australia, even in New Zealand. You see that in Southeast Asia, not yet much activity. So I use the occasion to send you a signal. If Jember University wants to develop more activity in the south with CIRAD and with Digitag, we are absolutely ready to see what we could do. Indonesia could be a flagship of the actions in Southeast Asia. So let's go back to now the real hardcore of what is digital agriculture, how we can go down at the end to precision agriculture. So we start traditionally at the farm level, where you have data on plots and soils. You have also weather data. You have data on your genetics. You know what are the varieties or the species or the clones that you are working with. Of course, you have data on the inputs, so what you have put as fertilizer, what you have given in animal feed, what is your phytosanitary product, etc. So already, this is the first main component of data. And usually you have remote sensing, you have maps and so on. So for example, this morning, you have seen an extremely strong and fascinating presentation that was giving all the concepts that we have here in this field. But that's not only, because when you go towards more precision agriculture, you rely on the mechanization, a certain level of equipment. So this also was illustrated this morning. So you have data that emerge from your equipment. So you have a tractor or you have drones or whatever. These equipment help you to work on your farm. In the same time that they help you to work on your farm, they create data about what you do. So you have data on technical parameters of your farming practices. And this contributes to the analysis and you put that in correlation with all the farm level data. What is extremely interesting is at a higher level, once you add some data on the logistics and the transport, you can start to integrate all this data with your financial data at the farm level. So your accounting. And so you have you have a merging of your technical and your profitability or your economic data. This is the base of what constitutes the beginning of sustainability. Of course, if you are able at this level to analyze this data in order to improve your consumption, to make your waste reused. So you create circular economy. You create a short circuit also. You can diminish the farm to fork, the farm to the fork or the farm to the chopstick trajectory of your food, for example. You really contribute to the increase of the sustainability of your contribution to the consumers or to the data, to the nutrition. But that is a first step. Now, the next step of the digital agriculture is when you enter the processing. Your food has been transported to the processing center. You have traceability data. You have data on the product that is encapsulating all the data that is before. But you transform the product, so you transform its nutritional value. You decrease it or you increase it according to what you do. So you create new data and you need to incorporate this data. And nowadays, the traceability data, the certification, the origin, all of this data has become extremely important to be able to reassure the consumer or to be able to better market your product. So at the end, you contribute to information on the consumers, but the consumers also give you data, so you get information about your consumers, so it becomes a bit circular. So once you have done this complete line, you are able to have, I would say, the premises of a complete circular economy, where you have your consumption that is digital, and you can retro work from the consumer needs to your farm level, all this flow of data. So the flow of data go in the two directions. At the end, according to what you know that the consumers are preferring or what is the best in terms of optimization to limit the CO2 emission, for example, or to limit any kind of other perturbation to the environment. You use the data flow in the two directions, and it helps you directly when you manage your farm to increase or to optimize your farm management according to what you know from the consumer or nutritional data that you have. So the whole chain is either circular or flowing in the two directions. That's what can be achieved nowadays. So today, now, first example with the mapping of sugarcane harvest. So what you need to do is to monitor the sugarcane harvest, and you need to improve the logistics. You need to know when is the good time to detect and to cut, and when when your fields are not uncut yet, and you can manage your logistic organization at the landscape level. So in order to do that, you can use remote sensing. For example, here we had ESA data, so with images every 3 to 5 days. So you can use those spots every 3 or 5 days to create an analysis that will tell you, based on algorithm and this data, a map of where your sugarcane is ready to harvest, when it's not ready to harvest yet. So when you create this map, you have like what you see here. Here is the view of Réunion Island. You see on time every 2-3 days. That's the time of so every week or twice a week. You have a vision of in yellow what is already cut, in orange what is under harvest, and in green what is not harvested. So this kind of tool helps the coordinators of the BAPENAS, for example, or the region or the landscape to better interact with the farmers and to better interact with the value chain in order to predict and negotiate with the industry to have a more sustainable and in time management of the value chain. So this tool is already developed in South Africa. We have 116,000 hectares that are monitored like this on time, real time. In Thailand, we have almost 400,000 hectares in Réunion Island, we have 15,000 hectares of all of this for the sugarcane. So that is one example of one of the tools. So here, the precision of the agriculture is not at the square meter. It is a knowledge, a precision knowledge of what are the resources at your management level of a small region or a big region, which is already increase, of the precision that you could have, because the policymakers have online and at any time a direct and daily update of what is happening on the field. So the future of this is that you could even have in every farm autonomous systems that could work, because such an integration system would allow you, if you have autonomous machines or autonomous robots on the field, they could allow you to have autonomous management of the fleet that would harvest your products. So that is the future. Now let's shift to a different kind of product. This one is produced on a smartphone. I will show you an example. It's called Pick Fruit because it allows you to pick the fruits in the trees. It is also a multidisciplinary product. So here you have examples of pictures taken from the smartphone. So when you show the tree, here it's a mango tree. When you show the tree with you use the screen of your smartphone to look at the tree through the application. What you see, the little yellow square, is the application, the app is able to spot directly all the mangoes that are visible in the picture. It's extremely accurate. 95% of the fruits are detected. It is extremely robust because it is able to differentiate the various cultivars. And what is very interesting, it is able to take into account the phenology. So the app will know for each fruit identified whether the fruit is ripe or not ripe. And if you have a model behind, it even can predict to you when the fruit will be ready to harvest. And the process is extremely fast. It's less than 1 second per image. So you can use that to estimate directly with your camera on the field what will be your yield now, your yield tomorrow, your yield in 1 week. The computer is giving that to through the application that you're on the smartphone. And what you have on the right is a little graphic where you see the estimated yields compared to the measured yields. So you see that there is a pretty good correlation, and you have 3 colors. Each color is a different cultivar of mango. So you see that actually you have a pretty good result. So what is estimated is really close to what we measure if we want to check how it works. So that is an example. That is not only there. You don't stop there. You can go even further. What you see, the network you have in your camera and in the software which is behind the camera of your smartphone, you have a neuronal network. It's a neuron technology. So the network detects fruits that are at very various stage of development. That's what we call the phenology. The phenology is all the stage of development. So whether they are green or maturing or really red already, it is able to do so under different configurations, different shades, different luminosity, different saturation of the picture. So it's very, very robust, and it gives you this type of quantitative result. But quantitative is not enough. What is happening après is, you see on the left, the graphic, when you do that, you can have an orchard. You see, you have a picture of an orchard, of mango orchard. You may have hundreds of trees. So if you don't want to do the pictures of all your trees, what you do is the application is telling you how to do your sample. And you have curves on the left. You see that you have curves that allow you to measure your error according to your sampling level. So, and you can use several sampling strategy, optimized strategy, clustered sampling, or stratified clusters. And in the middle, you see a picture of the orchard, and the red dots are the trees that the application tells you to sample. The application helps you. You are the farmer. The app on your phone helps you to decide and to do the best sampling. In that case, it's a random and optimized sampling. So the red dots are the trees that the app tell you to measure with your camera in order to know what are the mangoes you need. And from this kind of sampling, the app is able to give you the map that you see on the right, which is a complete yield estimate for your farm per cultivar. So you have here, if you have the random and you have measured on the left side 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 trees, you measure 12 trees randomly into the field, you are able to know that your farm is going to produce 7.5 tons per hectare of mango. And you have the different color for the different kind of cultivars. In order to work, you of course need to reference your mango trees in your orchard to have a first round of GPS information to know every location of every tree. Now, if the farmers are doing that at the regional level, you can imagine that every farmer has a smartphone and every farmer can use the app. Then at a higher level, the farmers association, if for example you have a farmers association, could know and map its region and know exactly on time through the information centralized on a server, what is the extrapolated yield according to the sampling of all the farmers. And you have it on time at the region. So you can have a complete mapping of the mango yields that is extremely performant because you can negotiate later on with the industry, or you can do any kind of policy decision or policy analysis that are relevant to maximize the revenue for the farmers or the impact on the environment or whatever. It's extremely rich, extremely deep in terms of application. So that is what you can do with PigSuite. You have a few examples of pictures of the farmers happy to use their application on the field. But what is very, 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 very important, I will insist on that, is the cartoon on the right of the screen. You have two pictures. One is what the stakeholders want. So here what you see is a baby with, you know, those toys that make a music and that you put above the bed of the baby. Everyone has seen that. And the parents are happy with the tool. You see little elephants, little bears, little whatever stuff toys that are turning above the baby. And the mommy and the daddy, oh, I love it, it's very cool. But what is the user? The user is the baby. And what the user is saying, you see on the last picture what the user is seeing. The user is seeing butts that are turning. So this is a funny picture to show to you that we have to be extremely careful between what the stakeholders see and what the user see. In our case, if we want that the precision farming work, it has to be peasant proof or farmers proof. So the user is the farmer and the tool has to be adapted to the farmer. It must be built with the farmer. It must not be built in an office and then given to the farmer, because we would have the same that we have on the cartoon now. So we need to build from scratch. We need to create a tool with the farmers and taking into account the farmer's need and the user need. At a much higher level, if you can use the tool comes PigSuite, and you can use it with another tool that is called SoYield, we are going to see after, you are able to integrate all of this data, to put that in databases, and you could end up at a level where you go to sit on the web and you see at a country level or at a regional level what is produced, what is going to be produced. And with that, you can create tools for the research to increase the tool and increase the efficiency of all of this. But you can also create support services, either for the government or for the industry or for the farmers association, for the final users. All of this is possible. And you can make this at a much larger integrated level. So you can do it at a regional level, at the country level, even at the continent level. This is what we have done. The example that you have on the left for the mango. But you can do for the citrus, you can do that for many fruits. So the tool which is called Sow Yield is a companion tool that also can go into an app that is using what you do with your smartphone, and which is going to use the piece fruit initial data to build a regional prediction of what is there. So what you have to be extremely vigilant about is that when you want to assess and forecast the fruit yields to increase the precision of your agriculture, you need to respect the needs of the various stakeholders. And they're not the same. The growers, they need production and they need relationship with buyers. The buyers and exporters, what they need is supply, harvest date. They need relationship with the growers. The local authorities, they need yields, but in average, mean yields for their district. The governance institution, what they need is to create agricultural policies. So Agristat, advices, and so on. The international agencies, what they need is to know how the value chain is working, how they can help the development. So like what is needed by FAO, AFD, USAID, they need this kind of information. And the research organization, what they need reliable big data. They need to understand what are the drivers of the production. So that is extremely important to have in mind. I give you examples. In the reality, on the field, here is an example from West Africa, but you could do the same kind of picture in any region of the world. You have everything from the agroforestry intercropping, where the yield is below 15 tons per hectare, I will say between 5 and 15 tons per hectare. So you have scattered mango trees with the intercropping in between. You have what is also called extensive traditional intercropping. This example in Africa is less than 5 tons per hectare. It's traditional, it's extensive, and it produces very low. But you have also the intensive export with monocultivar by plantation companies. And in this case, you have 20 to 40 tons per hectare. So when you use a tool like Sow Yield, integrating the result of tools like piece fruit, your tool has to be extremely versatile because you are going on the field to meet as different situations as what you see now in the screen. The result will be there on your smartphone. You will have a tool that needs to be designed and friendly. We said it has to be user-oriented. So you can describe your parcel. So you see on the second picture, the farmer put the delimitation using a satellite picture that is provided by the app. Okay, this is my parcel. Then you are going to fill the detail of your parcel, the area, when it was planted, what is the cultivar. And then the app will tell you, okay, you need to do your sampling now. And you will have the picture will build the sampling with you. So you will have the menu will tell you go to your field, take sampling, take one more tree, take one, and so on. So for example, you see here, the pictures tell you on the left, the first picture on the left, you have you look at the tree, you have a little red text, okay, not ready. But on the right, you have a picture that is good. So you have to frame your picture following that need in order that the whole tree is taken by the camera. So the app is guiding you. Then you have a second picture, the app is happy. Okay, I see the whole tree and I am identified with every green bar, every fruit. Once you have done that, the app will tell you, go to take one more tree, go to take one more tree. And bit by bit, it will build what you have on the third picture, a map of your parcel, a map of your farm, where you have all the samples that you have taken. So every dot here is a sample, and you have the level of precision per different kind of methodology that is given as a bar. And once you have finished your sampling, the tree, the app gives you your error, your estimated yield, and the percentage and what is your expected error for this particular case according to your sampling. You want less error, you can sample more, but you have no time, so you have another parcel to go to measure. All of this is a decision that you will take. Should I take more sampling time, or should I take more time to visit more parcel, more farms, etc. So, and this data is put directly to the server in real time. So in real time, the server will able to control and to compute with different methods. It will compute the yield, but it will tell you the precision. It will tell you the precision should be in average above that or below that, and so on. So each time you do this kind of work, you improve, the software improves its method. So it's very iterative. And you can add on the long term new cultivars, new locations. And in the future, we can even think that we could improve these tools again on the fruit size and on the maturity estimation, where we have some progress to do. So you see on the pictures people doing on time with their smartphone, and you have on the picture what the user is seeing on his smartphone. So that is helping to the contribution. I show you here other applications of the same tool. So it has been developed for citrus, it has been developed for cocoa, it has been developed for lychee. We are seeking very hard to adapt it ideally to fruit bunch or in palm oil palm. You know, you could put your phone on a long perch and take the picture of your crown, and it will tell you what are the fruit bunch ready, what are those who are not ready. This kind of stuff. Thank you very much. I think I given you quite quickly. Actually, I had more than 1 hour, but actually. We can go back to the slides. We can discuss extensively every aspect of it. So I gave you a snapshot of the current approach at CIRAD for mixing digital agriculture and precision farming.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Roda. Very amazing material today. Oh, very high for me. Very interesting, Dr. Roda. It is digital agriculture from CIRAD is, I think, very useful for young farmers and millennial farmers, I think, because very useful information to farmers how when they harvest, and then maybe about nutrition, and then age of harvest, I think, and very informative, I think. And now we have discussion session.
Yeah. Do not hesitate to tell me if you want to, during the discussion, to go back to one slide. We can do it. We can go back to any slide during the discussion, according to you according to who is interested by what.
If any question, I think we'll be back to some slide maybe. Yeah. Do you mean like that?
Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe please raise your hand if you want to ask something to Dr. Roda, and please say your name and then where are you from. Please. Any question, Pak Yagus? I think it is your area, Pak Yagus. Yeah, Pak Yagus, please. Yeah, Pak Yagus. Dr. Roda, Pak Yagus will ask you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for very interesting presentation from Mr. Roda, Dr. Roda. I'm really impressed with all of the material given by your presentation just now. And there are 4 questions that I'm going to ask to you. The first one is you present the idea of I think something like software, right? Software, a lot of software this CIRAD has produced, and unfortunately I couldn't get any information about the accuracy, especially in terms of the accuracy of prediction, the prediction accuracy of all of the software CIRAD has produced. That is the first question. And the second question is that how can I get that kind of software? Is that software is free download, or is that someone must buy that software? The third question is that are all the tools are applicable directly to our country? But I mean, is that directly applicable to Indonesian situation, because of the fact that the model may be developed in the situation which is completely different to Indonesian situation? Okay, I think 3 should be enough. 3 questions must be enough. Thank you very much.
3 questions, Pak Yagus.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Yagus. Mr. Yagus is working in similar to your area, I think, Dr. Roda. But in our CIRAD produce a lot digital tool to predict agriculture, especially in modern agriculture.
Yes.
Can you catch what is asked, Dr. Roda? There are 3 questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
They are very good questions because they are exactly on the topic where we have the challenges. So the first question of the software accuracy is critical. Actually, anytime we build models, we have to know what is the accuracy in our models, because the interpretation of our prediction is dependent of the accuracy. You don't interpret result the same if the model has 95% of accuracy or if it has 70% of accuracy. And that is fundamental. And the problem is that this kind of accuracy is mastered by the scientists and not mastered by the users. So in the example of the pig sweat and the soy yield product, the accuracy is built by the farmer. So there is no one accuracy. It's when the farmer is going to his orchard. Let's imagine that he has 100 trees. He will take the picture of 1 tree. The software will give him the production of your orchard is that much, but the accuracy is very bad. Please take another tree. Randomly, it will suggest where. So the guy goes, take another picture of another tree, second tree. Then it increases a little bit the accuracy. And bit by bit, the farmer can circulate, move jalan-jalan into his farm, take pictures, and build his accuracy until he feels good enough with his accuracy. That can be totally individual. Maybe the farmer A wants to have 90% of accuracy, less than 10% of error, or less than 5. Maybe his neighbor is okay with 20% of error. So they won't do the same. The software will give them different accuracy. What is very important is when this software will be combined in the server, for example, of the farmer association, there will be another calculation that will create the initial accuracy. At the end, you can improve. You can, at the end of the year, you can have a meeting with the farmers at the farmers association saying, in average, guys, our accuracy in our association was 70%. Some of you did a very fast sampling, it was 50% of accuracy. Some of you, it was 90%, but the average was 70. So we could take the decision that next year we make an effort to improve our accuracy collectively. And then everyone will take a little bit more trees. Of course, there will be a negotiation because the farmers will say, yes, but if I do that, I lose that much time. I have many other stuff to do. So the farmers and the farmer association may discuss between themselves what would be the better trade-off between the best accuracy that they want and finally the cost and the time that they want to spend as well. So in this case, for this software that you have seen, the accuracy depends completely on how the farmer will spend some time. Now it is very linked to the last question, because this calculation of accuracy is dependent of where you have fine-tuned the model. A model that is fine-tuned in Africa, I don't think you can apply straight away in Indonesia. So to me, the model that was defined for Thailand, Vietnam, even if Thailand and Vietnam can be similar by some aspect to Indonesia, it's not the same country, it's not the same growing conditions. So what we need to, if you want to apply such a model, such softwares in Indonesia, you need a time of researching with CIRAD. It's a research partnership team, for example, Jember University and CIRAD. We go on the field, we test the model, we realize where it is wrong, then we compare to other countries, then we create a new model that is specific for Indonesia, that can be used for the farmers. And we can even imagine that we have one model that is better for Sumatra, one which is better for Papua, because it's not the same condition, or stuff like this. We can have sub-models, we can have as much improvement as we want. And this has to be in partnership. And at the end, we can produce a software or tools that would be specifically designed for the need of farmers from Indonesia. That is how we conceive it. We don't want to apply a software made in some remote office, in some remote country, to come here and tell you it works by magic. No, it will never work by magic. So we need to adapt it. And the research we need to do with you. And we need to do the students that you have and to go to test the model, to do that, for their PhD example. It can be a PhD subject, many PhD subjects, many PhD ideas, to fine-tune models for different trees that are useful in Indonesia. It brings me to the second question. Actually, we have one software which is free, is the PlantNet. PlantNet is everyone can download it. PlantNet, and in plant, the A is the arrobas. So you can check that on the App Store, you will find it. The others are not free, they are not on sale either. We develop them with the local authorities. So when we need to develop that with the local authorities, say, imagine that Jember and CIRAD want to develop such software and its application in the province. We will discuss together what will be the cost of the development, what will be the cost at the time that we need, how many months or years to improve the software to make it really adapted to the province. That will have a cost because it will incur your time, our time, exchange time, student exchanges as well, PhD fund and so on. And then we go to the government, or we go to the USAID or to the World Bank or whoever, or the EU, whoever want to help us to fund that, and then we get the fund and we develop it. So it's not free, but it doesn't mean that you need to pay. We need to develop it together.
Okay, Bayakus. We have another.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it has been pretty clear from what you have been explaining to us. Thank you very much, Rhoda.
Yeah, my pleasure. Any other question we can discuss and go back. It's the subject is just the beginning of it. Okay. Someone told about farmers 4.0, millennial farmers. I translate in farmers 4.0. It is true that we have no needs and we have a new generation, and they don't want to work like their elders. So it makes even more topical the urgency that we develop together similar tools as what we discussed now, and for many kind of different agriculture. And today I didn't speak about drone or whatever, but every digital activity can give the way to create new way to work for the, I call them farmers 4.0, or the smallholders 4.0 as well. And the latest point is the geopolitical event with the COVID and the war in Russia and so on, in Ukraine. You have disruption of the trade, and more and more you will have fluctuations of the courses and so on, of the prices. And when the things are changing very fast, it means we need a faster way to react. We need to react faster. So we may hope that developing new digital tools would help our farmers to react smartly and faster.
Okay. Yeah, that's really a good point for Indonesian, which is also facing the millennial ages. But one more question, Roda. Would it be possible for our lecturer to join PhD research or master research in CIRAD?
Absolutely. The mission of CIRAD, CIRAD is a research center. It's a French research center that is only working on the tropical countries. Of course, we're in Indonesia. Indonesia is the center of the Southeast Asia. So there is a region which is very important to us. Is the insular Southeast Asia, the archipelagic Southeast Asia, including Philippines. Indonesia is the biggest country there. We specifically are oriented to do research with our partners. So in Indonesia, we cannot do research by ourselves. BRIN is doing research. The university is doing research. We are not. But in Indonesia, we are helping you. We're helping the colleagues to devise new research projects or to devise common or international training programs. And CIRAD has a mission to help master thesis and master PhD thesis to be done with CIRAD and with the partners. So typically, what you can do is your university hosting a PhD thesis. You identify an excellent student. You can go to me or to the CIRAD colleague and say, I would love that this student is working on subject A or B. We know that you do it as well. We want to develop it. And CIRAD will be absolutely happy. So we will identify a research unit in France, in Montpellier. And we will identify either that the student is doing his PhD in jember, but we will decide that his time will be split between your laboratory at the university and the laboratory in Montpellier. And the student will, for example, 6 months. And at the end, you're in the committee, you have a CIRAD scientist, and you can even decide to have a CIRAD supervisor if you have the possibility to do so, like external supervisor or main supervisor and so on. And you create the condition to have your PhD in between CIRAD and Montpellier. You can even decide that you want that your student has a double degree between jember and a French university. I can help to do that. Then we have a MOU with the university, and then we have a double degree. We make sure that the poor student is not having two vivas. We make one viva, but with people of the two universities. At the end, the student has a double degree. I have such example in Malaysia. In Malaysia, we have a student that has a degree of UPM, a degree of Agro-Paritech in Paris. She's doing it together, and the subject is the same. It's a common subject, and there is a steering committee made of the committee of UPM and made of the committee of Agro-Paritech, and that is a common committee. So everything that the committee of the student decide, she has to apply. At the end, she will get a double degree. But we have other examples where the student, for example, Pontiac University, Jember University, Jambi University, is doing his PhD at the university, but travel to the laboratory in France. We didn't need to find a fund. We can ask the French embassy. We can ask many funding institutions, including Indonesia. Sometimes even the university has the funding. We even can also have students that you take from jember and that you registered into a French university. So all the combinations are possible, but that is the mission of CIRAD, to put scientists as supervisor or co-supervisor of students that want to have such PhD or such master. Ideally, the best of the best is if we are able to post one CIRAD guy into university as lecturer, as professor, as a scientist in one of your research units, and the person is a member team is the team of your university, and co-supervise and help to bridge with the CIRAD teams. So you see the range of possibilities absolute, but this is exactly what we are looking for. It is our mission to do what you are asking for.
Okay, thank you very much. And for further information, I will ask you through email, right? Would that be possible?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much for your very
thank you,
interesting answer. Yeah.
Finish? Enough? Yeah. Any another question from maybe another people? Maybe from Zoom? I don't know what. Anyone can help me to read the in chat? Okay. It is a question from Indra. Yeah.
Can the hidden fruit
can
counting
the
tree
hidden fruit were also detected in counting tree production? The hidden fruit data were classified as lost data or others?
I think I will be beyond my subject, but what I think is, because I'm not a specialist of that application, I was not the programmer, but I told you in the case of the mango, it detects 95% of the fruits. So I think that there is extrapolation. So the software knows that in average it detects 95%. So it will compensate by guessing that there are 5% more of fruits that are not seen. I think this is entering this extrapolation, this guesswork is entering the calculation of the uncertainty, because knowing that you have 5% that you don't see is increasing the uncertainty. So you have to take that into account when you do your extrapolation. So I think the software is taking in account that extrapolation and is extrapolating the data for the hidden fruits. And the research is what allows you. So the software is not magic. It is a model. To know precisely that you have 5%, for example, the fruit that you are not seeing, you go on the field, you use the software many times, you see that each time that you use the software, there were 5% that were not seen. You measure the 5% that were not seen, and then it helps you to improve the software and to find a statistical relation and to say, when the software works, in average, it misses 5% of the fruit, and it misses, for example, the fruits, the 5% of the fruits may be the same characteristic than the fruits that are seen. The extrapolation is easy. They may be of a slightly different characteristic, then you add a correcting factor to do a proper extrapolation. I think this is the way it works. Now, to make sure of that, we need to ask my colleagues who are more specialists of the AI and the way it works in this particular case for the mango.
Okay, Indra, I think not here. Yeah, the Zoom, yeah. Indra, okay. We have time left about 10 minutes. Yeah. Another question, please? No, Zoom. Oh, the second question from Zoom. Yuli from Yuli. Oh, why go to Professor? The second question to Professor. Oh, that is the third question from Mufi Dansari.
Can we go back to the second question? Because
the second question, back to second question. Atau ke yang kedua coba. From
can you please explain more to us how to use the
from Professor's Gadal ya. Okay, this is your question to you. The question to you, Mr. Roda. So yield application can measure the fruit maturity and other variable as you explained to us. My question is, can the weather like overcast sky affect the accuracy of the data?
Absolutely. Not only the weather, but even the shade inside the tree, the position of the sun will create different shading effect. So this is part of the model parameters. So the time and the latitude and longitude where you take the measure is extremely important. So because if you have the time when you take the measure, the exact time, you know where is the sun, you know how the shade is working, so the software can correct the shading effect and take it in account in your measure. So it is a source of uncertainty. You have different sources of uncertainties. All of these sources of uncertainty can absolutely be taken in account. Each of them are known. So what is important is not that you have a lot of uncertainty. What is important is you know what is your uncertainty and you know how to interpret it. Then you can take sound decision according to the nature of the data that you have. But anyway, the beauty of the AI is it is on time. So when the software, you can put threshold in the program in order that you continue to do sampling until you have a result that is satisfying you. So for example, you have today bad weather, a lot of shading. You can have push threshold, and I'm sure it is the case in the software, that tells you, please take one more tree, in order to increase your sampling until you get a sufficient ratio of prediction. So that is, I hope it is answering to the question.
Okay, thank you. I think enough, time is enough. No question, no more question. Oh, okay, Mr. Slametto. Okay, Pak.
So I see the tree, I don't see the four.
Yeah, it is from Pak Slametto. Pak Slametto, please.
Thank you, Pak Kayong. I think this is a last question regarding time is so limited. Okay, I wish to say bonjour pour Dr. John Makroda. Merci beaucoup pour d'être présentatif de ce webinaire.
Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih. Okay. Yeah. Je souhaite vous parler en indonésien lagi. Mélanger anglais et indonésien.
Saya bisa cakap campur.
Okay.
It is not English language.
Thank you.
Bahasa campur is a new bahasa.
Okay, but I have one question for Dr. Roda. Okay, I think some of the question has been answered or explained by Dr. Roda. But in Sirat, I think there is many technology in Sirat. Yeah. So could we, Jember University, cooperate with Sirat in one of two of these technology regarding concerning the precision agriculture?
I think similar question to Pak Yagus question.
Yes, I think yes. But someday, I hope Dr. Roda can visit, can come in our faculty in Jember, or maybe the delegation of Faculty of Agriculture will come to your office at Jakarta in Jalan Kemang Raya, I think, yes. So maybe for discussion about the cooperation between Faculty of Agriculture, Jember University, and SIRAT, like that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Dr. Roda is a little bit similar, a little bit similar to Mr.
Yes.
Yaku's question, but maybe more focus on the
More institutional, yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. It's not only we need to do it. I would be really happy to work with you to prepare this. That would be absolutely topical. What we should do even is the two things. I should go to visit you in Jember, and in the second time we should have a meeting in our office, and in the third time, hopefully, we could have a meeting in Montpellier. So what we should is we have already a MOU of cooperation that is wide and allow us to make every adjustment that we want. So we could start to build a research program on a very specific subject that is interesting you. So I need to visit your university to discuss that with you, and we can do that. We could even, I don't know if we would have the time, but Professor Gadal that is talking here would visit Indonesia this year. So we could use the opportunity to do even a wide program of CIRAD, his university, and Jember, where we can dream of whatever cooperation. His field is on remote sensing. He will talk in a few minutes. So I welcome the idea, and we'll keep in touch. Maybe in the second half of August, after the 16th or the 17th, I could jump into a plane or in a bus to go to visit Jember. I think the closest airport is Surabaya or something. So we have to see how to do. And officially, that would be in order to visit your university and see report myself to my CEO about the opportunity of the cooperation, and then maybe hunting together for fund for creating that cooperation.
Okay. I think it's enough, Pak Slamet. The time
Okay,
is
little bit. Dr. Roda, we have, I have a communication with maybe Dr. Matthew Saban and Dr. Nabila in SIRAT.
Okay, excellent.
Yes. Okay. We have tried to develop the proposal like that in Banania.
Excellent. That is very excellent.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Because I have work in SIRAT. I have work in there in SIRAT with Dr. Frederick Buckley in Banania also. Yes. Okay. I love Montpellier.
So we need to create the occasion for you to come back to Montpellier to build a strong program of cooperation for the university.
Okay. I love Flash Drama comedy like that. Thank you, Dr. Ruda.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Roda. I think time is enough. Thank you very much. We give applause to Dr. Roda. Thank you very much for your. Dr. Roda, can we have your material today already?
I did send it already, I think, to Indra and Dr. Slameto. I think the PowerPoint has been. I sent the link yesterday for the.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we got already. Okay.
If you don't have it, ask me again. I will give it to you again.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Roda. And then we are going to the third speaker, Professor Hart. But I need break. Obvious. I go to toilet first.
Untuk sesi ketiga akan dimulai 10 menit lagi. Terima kasih. Sambil menunggu speaker yang ketiga.
Oke, Indri sudah masuk? Oh, belum.
Hello, the committee. I just found to Professor Gadal. He had an error of 1 hour, so he's going to connect now. He made a 1 hour so he's going to connect in the next minutes now.
Thank you, Dr. Roda, for your information.
Maybe we can start the session.
Hello everybody, I'm very sorry. I'm in Germany and unfortunately I made and the mistakes about the timetable. I guess that was 11 a.m. here. So I would like to introduce myself. I'm Sébastien Gadal and I'm very pleased and happy to be here. So 1 hour of time difference. So it was. So in back, you can see this is the deltas of Camargue. So I don't know if everybody is hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah, Jean-Marc.
Yeah, there was a pause, but now I think they are ready to hear for you.
Just a minute. Yeah. So it'll be okay right now. I guess it's okay. I don't hear you, but I guess we'll survive.
Okay, welcome, Professor.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, welcome, Professor Sebastian Gadal. This how to call it? Is my pronunciation is right or not? I don't know. Okay, Professor Sebastian Gadal is from Martial University. I don't know how to.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. That's good. Martial University is perfect.
Martial. Excellent University. Department of Geography and Environmental Planning. Before he speak to us, I will read his CV. He is married. Okay, everybody say married. And then got 2 children. And he got PhD from University of Provence.
Yeah, one.
December 2001, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
A long time ago. Yes. And his article about 50, conference proceeding about 109, book chapters about 17, books 3 and poster 24, patent, remote sensing and algorithm about 2, 2012 and 2014. International award in GIS in 2005, S3 in 2006, and SEMPO 2013, Lithuanian Council of Sciences 2014, EOR 2020, Grant of Norwegian State, visiting professor 2022. It is right, Professor Sebastian?
Yeah, which is right. Thank you for your introductions.
Yes, and he will speak to us about the topic is visible and near infrared hyperspectral imaging to describe properties of conventionally and organically grown carrots. This nice topic, I think. Interesting material. Speaker today, speak today, and it is yours, Sebastian. Please.
Okay, so then thank you very much, sir. So I will take then for my time, so I'm going to share, in fact, my presentations. Let's do it. I am in. I think everybody see it. It's okay for everyone right now? Yes, I guess. Yes, so then from today, in fact, I made the 2 proposals for this web seminars about the precision agriculture, what the use of remote sensing in the pre-urban transformations and evolutions, and what is the main creation and the main problems in terms of mobilizations of agricultures. And the second way is in some other types of research that we are doing about the use of hyperspectral sensors in terms of precision agriculture, but as well about forestries and urbanizations. And before to start, I would like to make a small background about the histories and how we came, in fact, and to use the hyperspectral sensors and the scanners, in fact, for the different applications. And I will present you one application that is concerning the carrot, and how we can make the difference between the organic carrot and the grown and the conventional carrot, where we are using some pesticide and some other element. First of all, the use, in fact, of hyperspectral this is not new. This is not new, and the technology was developed originally in the end of the 70s by the Soviet, with the first Soviet applications in Siberia, especially about the roof material, about the chemistries, about the pollution, but as well about agricultures. And because of the collapse of the Soviet Union, the large part of the scientists that they work in hyperspectral came to the US. And from Americas, and they developed, in fact, some hyperspectral for the NASA, mainly for the space explorations, and especially for the different explorations about Mars. They developed some new kinds of sensors, and these new kinds of sensors in the 2000s. So I'm working in hyperspectral since 1997. So just to tell you that it is not new. That's not news for me, but just to explain that at the beginning and at the end of the 90s and beginning of the 20s, there's one question is what we can do about these types of sensors for some other types of applications that are related to the space applications, for astronomy, or for explorations, some other planet. And we start to work then with NASA. I was during this time a technical advisor at the John Stennis Space Center with Mark Lanu, that is the researcher from the John Stennis, that he's got a lot of prize because he's developing some kinds of new sensors in hyperspectral, in full spectral, and some other types of applications, sensor. And we decide, in fact, to take the types of sensor that is developing and to look what we can do in terms of urban planning, in terms of forestry, in terms of agricultures, in terms so all the large scales of possible. And one of the main applications that we had, it was an application that was developed by first, but it's very interesting, by our colleague from Malaysia in terms of food safety. And they started, in fact, to use the hyperspectral sensor to analyze the qualities of food for the sanitary. And it was quite successful, and the Malaysians were the first, but they investigate this approach. Us, we focus with my friends and colleagues from the Lithuanian agricultures to the questions of links that we can make in terms of forestry, and we develop some approach that we give them the capability from the signal and signatures that we can have about the trees and to reconstitute in fact and the DNA. And we had the PhD, but it was made then by Gediminas. And we developed, in fact, with Gintotas, with my colleagues and my friends, in fact, and some approach. And from the spectral signatures that we can take from the airborne, from the laboratory, we are able, in fact, to reconstruct for 90% around the DNA of the plant, and the DNA of the vegetation, so of the trees, and all this element. And it was one kind of application, but unfortunately we cannot publish it because there are some specific applications, but they are under development now since almost 10 years. but it's very interesting because the main question and the main interest of the hyperspectral, if you are comparing with the usual approach in multispectral imagery, is that we have in fact the continuum of a spectrum. And the idea is always where to find where you have some down and some top. And when you have some down in terms of absorptions or some up in terms of reflectance, we are going in fact to use this very narrow spectral range to identify the biophysical characteristic of each object. This is the main and the most simple interest of hyperspectral. Hyperspectral, we are going to make and the spectral signatures, and from the up or from the down, we are going, in fact, to identify some very narrow range. And this very narrow range gives us, in fact, the biophysical characteristic of each object. It's not new, it's old, but still today, we have lakes of applications. I don't know why, because the technology is quite expensive, because each sensor, if you want to have the full range of a sensor, you have to invest at the minimum 1 million euros, so it's quite expensive, and not all the laboratory, they are able, in fact, to invest this amount of money. That is properly the but it was one of the first applications. Second types of applications that we developed, it was to develop, in fact, some morphospectral database for the architectures and for the urban planning to identify, in fact, all the types of materials that we're composing in the cities. And as well here, that is very interesting, but as well as the urban vegetations. And as well here, we build, in fact, some very large database with one other point. We are going to combine the morphology, the form, the shapes of the object with them spectral signatures. And it was one of the research that I conduct and that I lead. And of course, you can find some articles or some posters about that. And the last types of application what we developed in terms of precision agricultures with the Lithuanian University was, in fact, to detect and to have a capability to identify the difference between some organic carrots, salad, and some other types of product with conventional. It was one of the research, and the idea is really to have some method totally automatized that will give, in fact, for farmers, that will give them to everybody the capacity to discriminate and the different types of vegetables that you can have. And we talked about today is about the carrot. So that's the way. One of the interest as well when we are working on the passive sensors like the hyperspectral, we are in fact in the non-destructive process. Okay, it is not like the radars or anything where we are sending and some impulsions. Here is non-destructive approach because we are just making, in fact, the measurement of a spectral response of a object, and by this way is very interesting. It's very interesting because we have a very soft approach, but there are no impact on the object that we are going, in fact, to analyze. And what I explained then before, the first people that they made the first application in terms of food safety was the Malaysian. And now you can go to the US or to Europe. We have, in fact, different kind of similar application. The second way, of course, and the main interest for farmers and for the local authorities is to detect, in fact, the level of pollutant inside the soil, but as well the chemical characteristic to all fruits and vegetables. So the main problem that we have from today, this is in fact to industrialize all this process. Is working in laboratory, is working in test, but when we want in fact then to jump and to develop some industrial the productions, what is rentable for the industry, still today we have in fact and some limit in terms of processing, because you have to understand when, for example, we are here in the near infrared, we are getting around almost 1,000 spectral band. 1,000 spectral band, if you're taking all the spectral band with the spatial resolutions of some centimeters or less, you have more 3 to 4 terabytes of data to process. And is one of the main problems and questions what we can to discuss after about some alternative approach, as in the open discussions, is the numbers take of data. So we have, in fact, the problematics, so the processing of massive data, of the big data, and is one of the main probes. Do we have in the industries and the huge capacity for each product that we are going to scan to process in very small times, 1 second, 2 seconds maximum, 4 terabytes of data for each product? No, it's not possible. So we are still this gap that we are not in fact in the industrial use, except in laboratories. That is the second way. The second point that you understood by the spectral signatures, we are ready, in fact, to measure by the absorptions, by the reflectance, in fact, all the biophysical elements. So this is what I talked before. And of course, if we are interested to make, in fact, the mapping of the internal structures of each vegetable. This is also one of the interests that we have. And the approach is not complicated, and everybody can to replicate this approach. We are nothing new, we are absolutely nothing new, and we are using, in fact, to make the links between the spectral response and the biophysical characteristics of the object of a usual approach than statistic, and this is the partial list square the regression. PLLSR. So nothing specific. You can find the algorithm everywhere, and you can to apply it. So I just want to say that from today, in terms of method, in terms of approach, everything is covered. Everybody can apply in any lab. The main question that we have is how to process this amount of data, and from today, this is not solved. And of course, when we are using these types of PLSR in terms of regression, it's very easy because the PLSR is very effective when we have a very large amounts of data. And of course, when we are with the hyperspectral, of course, and you have to imagine that in hyperspectral, and we are taking 996 spectral band, okay, for each object is very easy after centrals and the model that is running quite well, because these types of algorithm is totally linked, in fact, and relevant in terms of performance, in terms of accuracy, when there are huge amounts of data. So nothing new. I can say there's nothing new. So now I'd like to talk to you about the kind of experimentation that we developed and that we made. So we are using, in fact, some drone or some micro flight aircraft and like that. So then you come to see me in back. And in fact, then the interest is what, in fact, and the people we are using in agricultures. We are using drone or these types of aircraft. Because of the cost of the cameras, we prefer them to use the small aircraft, because several times with the drone we had some crash. Thank God the camera were not destroyed, they were not touched, but we are quite afraid, because according to the cost of the camera, if you're losing the drone, it's not the drama. If you're losing the sensors, it can be quite problematic. So this is why we are using, in fact, a small aircraft, and the interest as well in the backseat. In fact, we have in fact and the control about all the sensors, all the acquisitions and everything. So, and we are putting the sensors, and we can put as well a different kind of set of sensors. This is what we are using. And the interest of these types of small aircraft that we can land in any place, on the road, on the field, everywhere, and we don't need the long ranges to go up or to land. This is one of the interests, of course, but we are using that. Just for little stories, and this aircraft then is made by the Ukrainian. So, in the same times, to try to make some links at the beginning between the acquisition that we can have in terms of airborne with a small aircraft or with a drone. We are using, in fact, and the same cameras and in laboratory, of course, in the black in the black room. And this is on the processing, of course, and this camera, this is the camera that we're using. This is the camera that they come from the NASA, that was developed by Marc Lanoux. So now we have the next generation, but the camera is less than 1 kilo. We have around 900 grams. It's quite efficient. And by the way, we are going, in fact, and to construct all the spectrum of each object, and we are taking for each object 20 types of angle and measurement to be sure that we can take, in fact, and the directional effect of the measurement. And we are going, in fact, in this case, to take here some 955 spectral response. That is quite a lot, and is generating, of course, and several terabytes in terms of data. And by the way, we are going, in fact, to construct the spectral library. And from this spectral library, so we are able, according to the different kind, in fact, to detect the different spectrum for each object. And the spectral signatures is unique for each object. Of course, then you can find on the web, on the Aster library, also types of libraries, some conventional spectral response for all the types of productions in terms of agriculture. They are in open source, they are existing, but if you want to enter into the deep, as we are doing now, in fact, we have a unique spectral signatures. And the spectral signatures is not the same for the same object according to its group and according to the levels of pesticide or pollutant or the compositions inside. And this is one of the interests of this approach, but it's very simple and in reality, is by the spectral signature we are able to make the differentiation between each object and the component and the biophysical compositions of each object. Is one the approach. So this is a times and the period that is taking quite long times. Sometimes in some approach we are staying more than 2-3 weeks to build, in fact, all the spectral signatures. Of course, when we are working on the vegetables, we are making the measurement, and immediately in the same times, and we are in the teams, but we are taking the vegetables and going immediately to the lab here to make the spectral measurement to have, in fact, and the concordance between what we observe by airborne remote sensing and what we can to observe in terms of spectral library that we are going, in fact, to develop in the lab. And for this point, because we have times, we had some trouble. We had some serious trouble in terms of spectral signatures because we use, in fact, the spectral library that we build in the lab to try to recognize, in machine learning mostly, the different types of vegetables that we can detect, like the salad, like the carrot, and everything. And we discovered that we have some very strong misclassifications. We did not understood because the spectral the signatures were accurate, very accurate. The method and machine learning were accurate, and at the same time, we had some very ineffective recognitions of the object. We can have then some spaces that were recognized at another spaces and everything. And the question is why? Why we had this misclassification? And the question was very simple, and we understood after some weeks, is because is one of the main questions that we have to solve, and we solved, of course. The measurement that we have in laboratory is around 1-2 centimeters. And the measurement that we have with a drone, sent by the remote sensing, or with a small aircraft, is at 20-25 centimeters or less than 10 centimeters. And this balance of 1 centimeters to 10 to 20 centimeters generate some misclassifications. It means that if we want to have a good classification and recognition by airborne remote sensing, we must build the spectral database from the airborne image and not from the laboratory. Okay, we have in fact the disbalance of sake of measurement in terms of scale. And the scale in terms of measurement generates some misclassifications. And when we adjust that, and when we developed, in fact, and the spectral database from the airborne image, after we have some very good levels of classification. This is one of the points. But I want to mention, because still today, and quite often, the people we are going, in fact, to develop the spectral database, that they are related to biophysical component of each object. And when we use this database on the airborne imagery, we have some misclassifications, and we detect some species that they are not the right species, I think. And it's very linked to the disbalance of the spectral resolution that we can have in the airborne and here in laboratory. It's one of the main points that we have to take in account. This disbalance of things. And this disbalance of things is not so easy and Richie. Because when we have to have some very accurate and accuracy the process, and the question is, we are going to make a measurement in the laboratory, or we are going, in fact, to use the airborne imagery. So still is an open question. Is an open question than what we have. And some colleagues prefer to take the carrot and salad and running things and goes into the lab and to work in the lab. And some others, like me, we say it's better to work on the real application, as we have a small level of accuracy that is not so good, and to work on the real time. Then we have this to school, and we train how to make the merging if it's possible. Is one also the second open question. First open question, this is the processing of the big data in terms of terabyte, and the second question, this is the questions of if can we mix or not the measurement that we have in laboratory in the dark room, or the measurement that we can have on the airborne imagery. This is one of the open questions that we have. So just open some discussions and to talk about that. Second way, of course, here we are going, in fact, to take the carrot, because it was the main point. Of course, and this approach that I explained you, the use of remote sensing is not new. And in 2000, we had a lot of types of applications. And one of the points also that we are working as well right now, in terms of a scholar project that I have in Aix-Marseille University, is the question of the soil quality. in terms of sake of soils, of pollution and polluant and everything. That remote sensing is one of the ways and the approach that we are investigating. Because, of course, what I think that is clear for everyone. This is the difference of the spectral signature. They help us, in fact, to detect the types of biophysical element. And for our example here, we decide to take 4 species of carrot. This is with Lithuanian names, and we made that the Lithuanians. And we have, in fact, the same species, but we are developed on the approach of organic carrot, and the carrot and incubational with the use of some kind of chemical element. And we are going, in fact, to look, first of all, if it's possible to discriminate them, each of them. That is the first question. So the second question is to look if from the spectral signature we are able, in fact, to reconstruct, in fact, by the spectral signatures and the biophysical component. So we took from the point 16 carrot in organics for the 4 species, and the 20 carrots from the conventional. And we are going, in fact, to make the process that I explained you before by airborne and, of course, in the darkroom by laboratory. The second element that my colleagues, that we are working in biophysical, we use, in fact, we are going, to make the measurement of the nitrate, of the acidity, of the ERP, and of the electrical conductivity was the main element that we took as well. And it was one of them. And for them, for each types of carrot, we are going, in fact, to make 140 measurements in terms of spectral reflectance. So we have some ultra precise reflectance. And of course, then we are going, in fact, to cover all the visible near infrared. So, and after, so we're doing some visual processing. In the same times, I'm totally incompetent this way. This is my colleague from chemistry. We are going, in fact, to make the same measurement of the same types of carrots in the laboratory to make the measurement of the nitrate, the ORP, and on the electrical conductivity. Okay, then to look as well the levels of aluminium, of sulfate, so all these elements that they are important for them. And we have, in fact, 3 types of measurement by airborne in the lab, in the darkroom, in terms of psychospectral signatures, and in the chemistry, all in parallel. That is the way. So I will not enter the types of measurement that we made in chemistry because I'm not competent. But just to tell you that they use, in fact, and this approach. In fact, than to calculus than for ORP. So I don't want to say more because I'm not competent. I just took, in fact, the result for the processing. So for this one here, you have, in fact, the tables with different species. This is the classical univariate processing that you can see in terms of statistic, nothing special. And we have, in fact, for each of them, for each species, in fact, all the measurement for all the types of carrots and that we took. And this quite interesting because immediately, if you are making the differentiation that you can observe between the conventionals and the organic carrot, and we come to observe, in fact, some difference in terms of species, with the gravity, for example, where we have, in fact, some different, in terms of means, we have some different types of different that they are quite important. That comes to look, and some of them they are not. Yes. Hello? I think that I was stopped. So, and by the way, we have all these types of table that they are made for each measurement, for each carrot. And we are going, in fact, to process all this approach, okay, that we have. And for this one, of course, the first element that we are going, in fact, to do is to make the usual test in terms of statistics with the Sapiro wheel test and all these elements that they are quite good. I guess that Jean-Marc, that is a specialist of statistics, we can make some comment as well. That is all this element, and we are making, in fact, then to analyze on the levels of accuracy in the statistical way of each type of measurement that we can have from the chemical measurement. Is one of the way that we made, and immediately, of course, that we are almost sure in terms of hypothesis, if course, and the t-test, making, in fact, the differentiation between what we can observe in terms of species of carrot, but as well in terms of differentiation between the organic and the conventional carrot. The second approach was, of course, how to links with hyperspectral and imagery, and we were not so from my point of view, after that we can take it back. So we use the usual approach with the principles and component analysis, okay, and to reduce, in fact, in term, then to reduce all the types of informations we can have, okay, then to reintegrate in, and the interest is of course to make the reduction of information. As well is not presented here. We can use, in fact, and the minimum noise fractions approach, but from my point of view is more accurate than to identify the structures of the vegetables or the carrot, like here. Okay, so then it depends approach. Me always I am combining both, but in this terms of approach, the PCA. That is the most interesting. And in terms of variance, of course, from my point of view, that was the most efficient. And of course, after we have to make these links, and to make these links in terms of case, in fact, and we make the spectral separability between the conventional and the organic carrot. In fact, and we use as well some very simple and useful approach. This is the Jeffrey Matsushita approach and distance. And by the way, it's very easy, in fact, to discriminate, in fact, and different types of varieties of carrot. And these carrots, they are organic or non-organic. Okay, then we are making after some LDA, the linear and discriminations analysis. And by the way, we have, in fact, a huge and good mapping, in fact, the classification between the types of carrot. And as I said before in the presentation, when you are using, in fact, the PLRS, is possible to make the links between what we observe in terms of spectral signatures with the component of the object. That's the approach that we developed, and this approach, everybody can use it. Then we repeat this approach, and this approach is robust. And of course, the only one element, from my point of view, where we can have a better accuracy according to the species, is not to use the PCA, but to use the minimum noise fractions. Okay, so to work more than in machine learning with MNF, and by this way, so we have this capability to extract and to map, in fact, the structures of objects. But the main questions of the MNF is we have to take after each axis that is correspond then to the image and the spectral signatures, and to analyze each of them, and it's quite long. And the automatization of this approach is not yet useful in in comparison with the PCA. And by the way, here, so you can see the result that we can have in terms of regressions between the applicants that observe between the different kinds of chemistry element with, in fact, the types of species and what we can have in terms of spectral signatures. And by this way, we can say that the results are quite relevant for the main of case. Of course, if we can take some species, like here, we have some differentiation, but this differentiation, we are mostly linked, in fact, if we have some organic or some not organic carrot and the species of the carrot. So then the results are quite interesting. So this approach, and if you're interested, of course, you can take this approach and to reapply this approach and to look the level of accuracies and the robustness of this approach, because it's not so complex, it's not to apply. That's the way. So what we can say at the end, if we are making, in fact, the table, the interest for us, if we are going back to hyperspectral remote sensing, and especially for me, as I told you, if we are coming back, for example, at the beginning, if I'm taking this first spectrum here, is always to work, for example, I don't know if you see my cursor for my mouse, is to work where we have some strong absorptions or where you have some little peak like that, you see some little top, and to detect, in fact, the range. And when you have the range, immediately you are able, in fact, to make the links with the composant. And is what we did here. For example, here, for each type of species, and so, if you want, in fact, to detect, for example, the nitrate, you have to take, in fact, the spectral range of 471.8 nanometers. And for each of them, for each species, we have, in fact, the spectral range that we have to take, but it gives us the capacity to detect the different elements. And these elements are very good, because after, when you know the range, so you can take in any software, so like Envies, for example, from people that are making some remote sensing, you know the range, and you are going, in fact, to detect automatically all the objects that they have, in fact, in this concentration of nitrogen. And for each of them here, and it was my job, it was, in fact, to detect, in fact, what is the specific spectral range that is give us the capabilities, in fact, to detect all this component and chemical component inside the organic carrot and inside the conventional carrot for each species. And by this way, we give us, in fact, the capabilities of detections of non-detections of a different element. And this approach are very relevant and is what, in fact, the industry wants, because the industry is not able, in fact, to process 4 terabytes of data for each carrot. And they want, in fact, the specific range where we can detect and not detect and detect and not detect and detect and not detect. It's one of the approach that we developed. But to do that, is still we are doing still that in the manual approach, and step by step. It's taking times, but the result after are quite efficient. That is one of the main points. Of course, the second point that is interesting in terms of precision agricultures, because we are here now in the precision agricultures, is to detect, in fact, and the range, the range second region. If we want to detect the carrot, is better, in fact, and to work, in fact, around 8 878 nanometers or around these regions. And this is one of the ways that we are able to detect. One other point that is very interesting, if we have in fact the approach by the spectral range, is very easy to detect the type sec of carrot and the component. But if we are making in fact some linear approach in terms of separations, and the approach are not on the top, and in fact is very, 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 in fact, than the GM distance that is giving us some good result of discriminations, is one of the points. And still now here we are, in fact, on some limits of the approach of multifactorial analysis, and we have always to come back on the manual approach and to detect each spectral range that is efficient. Is one of the main points where it's taking times, and is why, in fact, this process they are not yet industrialized. This is really than the laboratory approach, but it's working. It's working quite well on the different types of results. So to conclude and to open the discussions, of course, the method, what I just explained, this is the limit of a statistic, the limit of the mathematics. We have to be clear. And people working in statistics and mathematics, that they have to make some huge progress in terms of processing of big data, of massive data, because all the algorithms that we have here in libraries and we are not working. We have to be honest. We have some limitations, and for example, one of the limitations that we had, it was not possible with a conventional approach of statistical analysis that we have to proceed all the spectral band. There are some limits of algorithmy, and this is why we back to PCA. This is why we back to the minimum noise fractions. But they are not so relevant for the approach. And is one of the limits. So the limits, and we have in fact a limit to the number of spectral band, and by this way, we didn't use all the potential of the hyperspectral imagery. And we come back to the multispectral and to the superspectral and so on. And it's one of the main problems that we have right now. And where my colleagues in statistics since many years they are turning around, but we don't find any solutions. The second problem is because of this small number of spectral bands that we had to use, and not all the range spectrum. In fact, the level of accuracy is super good, but it must be much better if we have the possibility to use all the spectral bands. And this is why, because of these problems, I came back and manually I identified, in fact, all the spectral range. So, another point that is very interesting, in fact, is that by this method, we are able, in fact, to identify the level of nitrate, the ORPs and the electrical connectivity. That is one of the points that is quite interesting. The main question that we have, now we are working on the visible near-infrared. Do we have some similar result if, for example, we are going to work in the sphere, in the middle infrared, or in the thermal, in terms of emissivity? In the thermal, I don't believe, but maybe in the sphere 1 or sphere 2, in the middle infrared, should be interested to investigate what will be happen, but for what we need to buy some new sensors, and each sensors we have to invest around half of millions for each sensor, so what is quite expensive. And because, in fact, probably of a smaller number of spectral bands that we were able to proceed by the statistical approach, we have, in fact, the poor result in terms of identifications and recognitions and measurement by the spectral approach, the pH, of course, over acidity is one main point, and probably as well, if you are working in the middle infrared, we can have some better results. So this is some open questions where we are now, but we don't have when we are working in the forestry, because this near in forestry is very accurate. In the precision agriculture, less. And of course, if we make the similar application, that is very interesting, not to the carrot, but to the berries, for example, or to some other fruits, we have some very good result in terms of identifications of the acidity of the ORP. So it was some elements that I want and that I would like for today is to share with you. And the question I am now, the audience is open, and we can to start if you're interesting some discussions and open discussions and to sharing to make some brainstorming or some other point. So I would like to thank you very much for your attentions, and we publish articles, but we have some others, a report that you can find on the website. So thank you very much. And Chair, I give you back the floor.
Thank you very much, Professor Sebastian. Ladies and gentlemen, now we with the time for discussion. If there is question, please raise your hand and say your name and where you from. Thank you very much. Please. Yeah, I keep the chance. Any question? There is a question? I think very interesting material Professor Sebastian speak today. Talking about spectral, yeah, jadi hyperspectral, and then we can evaluate between conventional and organic. It is right. Compare between conventional and organic carrot, yeah, organic material. Pak Slamet, do you want to ask something? Anyone? Yeah, okay. Pak Slamet, please. Maybe from chat we can ask you. Yeah, after Pak Slamet raise hand. Yeah, Pak Slamet, please.
Thank you, Pak Kacung. Thank you, Dr. Kacung. Okay. Bonjour, Profesor Sebastian.
Bonjour.
Selamat sore. Oh, selamat sore di Indonesia. Oh, good. Okay. As you know, this what is a machine on this apparel, so it's very advanced, but I cannot imagine how we can implement it or apply this equipment, because I think the price so high. Sakut tracer, huh? Okay, so
yeah.
Okay, Professor Gadal, how do I will start to use this equipment? Maybe there is some equipment more simple like that. Before we will use this equipment. Thank you.
Absolutely. For example, my colleague from the NASA with the USDA in the US, the Department of Agriculture. In fact, they are going to use some trucks, okay, the tractors, okay, and the tractors they are making, in fact, and a simple camera, very cheap, very cheap camera. And the idea is for each species to have here, for example, in this range, one kind of range icons and to detect each species, and one kind of spectral range icons and to detect some element in terms of chemistry. And my colleagues, and for example, for my lab, then we are programming inside. And we can use by drone, or we can use with tractors with a simple camera, and the camera costs from today less than 10,000 euros. And the price, they are decreasing very fastly. And it was over approach. But to do that, we need, in fact, to make these types of tables with the spectral signatures to make the interrelationship between the spectral signatures, the types of species. And when we have on this table, so then my colleagues that they are in computer science, is very easy for them, in fact, than to programming, and we have, in fact, and some early warning point. And is what is developed as well as in the US. So in the US, they are more sophisticated, but us, we are trying always to find, in fact, the low-cost approach, not in terms of result, in terms of the cost, but in terms of the cost of the product. And is what about we are working, and it's the same for the drone. We are trying to use some drone, but the cost is little, and we are just putting some simple camera with some specific filter that is related to the spectral range, and we are working like that. Because, of course, I fully agree with you that nobody can use these types of materials, and the cost of the materials is too high. Fully agree. I fully agree with you. And we try, in fact, but unfortunately or fortunately, in back, we need to build, in fact, and this matrix. This is what is the most costly. But of course, if you are in science, they are making some cooperation with your colleagues, but they are somewhere else in the world, and is working. We are in the open community. It's not the problems, and is after them to find the capabilities to decrease at the maximum the cost. For example, now Mark Lanou in hyperspectral camera, they are around 900 grams. Is trying to decrease as much as possible on the cost, because nobody can use. If you think in some labs is interesting, but in kind and in terms of business of application, it cannot work. I fully agree, 1000%. And it's one of the way. When I'm talking since now 6-7 years, but I'm developing some low-cost airborne approach, my colleague in France, they are looking at me, but what are you saying, blah, 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 but in reality, we are working, because we have some PhD candidate from Africa, we have to work on this low-cost approach, not in terms of knowledge, but in terms of product. Very good. 1000%. And it's one of the ways that we have to find some partners to develop this approach.
Okay. Mato, do you have another question?
Okay. Thank you, Professor Gadal. Marseille in Jember is more known that with a football club, Marseille.
L'Olympique de Marseille.
Yeah.
It is Fran language. I don't understand.
Professor Gadal,
we are talking about football,
Professor Gadal, I have been there in Marseille. I remember there's a église and out like that. What I don't remember what in the name. Church in high clan like that. Yeah. I have been there because in that movement there is some ceremony in diplomatic office, General Consul, Indonesian General Consul in Marseille. Okay, Professor Gadal, if you said in your presentation, even though we have used this equipment, but we have to analyze with chemistry analyzing like that. Yes. So with this equipment, we cannot detect it directly without chemistry analysis like that.
Alors, the question is until today, the approach of a spectrum, we don't have a table, but we are making the links between what we are measuring in terms of spectral signatures with a biophysical component. And this is why we must to develop, in fact, and the parallel approach in between to make the interrelationship. For example, it's not the kinds of research that I'm presenting here, but when, for example, I am using the hyperspectral to reconstruct, in fact, all the internal bodies of people. And we have some kind of application that we are doing with some colleagues in medicine or in biology or in dermatology on the DNA. But at the beginning, when we are starting, we have to find one kind of spectral response can make links with chemical element. And is what I present from today. And that is taking times, but it's not complicated. And after, the kinds of application can be for everything. If one day, for example, we want to develop some very accurate biosystems and to detect each species and each human, then it's possible. Because we have a unique spectral signatures for each biophysical element. And the question is to find the spectral signatures. And this is, in fact, a little bit the secret of made home, you know. And some laboratory, for example, they are refusing to share the result because they can find some specific range that they are able to detect these types of a chemical element. And so. Me not because I'm working in science, but in industry, they don't want too much share the result. But the approach is an open approach, and I present this approach, and anybody can use it. You know, we have a lab, we have a friend, we have a colleague, so everybody is welcome.
Okay.
So us, we are in the open, so we are really us in the open science.
Terima kasih. Merci, Professor Kadar.
Thanks so much, and thank you very much for the audience and for your invitations. And see you soon.
Do you understand? Terima kasih. Terima kasih. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Professor Sebastian. There are some questions from chat in the Zoom. This is from the first question is from Indri Fariro. Near infrared would effectively predict the pH of the carrot root. What is other possible parameters that would predict accurately for distinguish the pH in organic and soil carrot?
There are two elements. About that. The first element is to find in fact, to have the capability to use all the spectral range, all the spectral band, and not some only than some spectral band. The second, because this approach is working very well to the berries, for example, to the apples, is working well. For the carrot, it is not working. And the question is because the spectral range that we give us the capacity to detect the pH on the carrot is not working so well, because we have as well to take in account one element that I didn't talk here. This is the soil quality. And if we don't have any measurement about the types of soil quality where we are planted on a carrot, for example, also a salad or some element, it's very difficult. We have some interaction, and we have, in fact, as well as to make a measurement of the pH of the soil to see if there are some discrimination or not that they are possible. And because we are limited by the numbers of spectral band that we processed, this is not possible. With the berries, with a salad, this is possible, of course. It's very simple. This is the interaction with the soil and the small numbers of the spectral band. And after, as well, of course, if you are working on the middle infrared, we have some process of emissivity. And because we have the reflectance and the emissivity in some specific range of the middle infrared. And that way is very interesting also to analyze the spectral compartment of the pH.
Okay. Okay. There's another question from chat. Please help me, please.
There's not any questions.
This is from.
Because,
yeah. This is the next question from Mufidasari. How the electrical conductivity parameters can be distinguished between the organic carrot and conventional carrot? This is
okay. So is the question of chemistry? What I explained before, it was not me, but I made the measurement. It was my colleagues, but they made that, and I come to come you back from the article where it's carefully explained. But for me, I got on the result what we got, what they made, and from this one, I made the links with the spectral signatures. Simply, and the spectral signatures is working quite well. And if you're working, for example, with the minimum noise fractions, not the PCA, we have some better result because of better mapping in term of the structures of the object. Is what I notice from my side.
Okay.
And of course, please keep free to contact my colleagues that they made that in chemistry. Like Lema, you can contact Lema, and I'm really sure that will be happy to answer you about the chemical approach. Unfortunately, me, I'm not competent on that.
Yeah. And there is any question from another chat? Oh, Pak Yakus, please. Yeah, Pak Yakus, go ahead, Pak Yakus.
Okay, this might be the last question. Might be. Okay.
Maybe.
My question, my question is I imagine that there were 55 bands, and then also 16, right? 16.
Yeah. It was the limit that we got.
Yeah.
Because of a statistical approach and method.
Okay.
If we are taking the PCA, we are integrating all. If you are using the minimum noise fraction, so we are taking all the spectral band, and it's just a question of times for processing.
Okay. Then there are also what is the carrot quality characteristic, such as nitrate, pH, and electrical conductivity. And my question is that how long did it take the research? How long did it take the research to finish at the time? Because what I imagine is it must be quite extensive data you have been collecting, and also there must be a large quantity of the data that must be processed. Then how long did it take to finish that kind of research?
How long? When we start, they are 3 elements. First elements, to make the data acquisitions, for example, is taking, if we are taking the operation of the airborne, the aircraft, and all the three teams in parallel for the chemistry, for the airborne, and for the lab, for the acquisitions, and it's taking less than 1 hour. For the preparation of materials is 1 hour, something like that. In terms of processing, for the experiment and for everything, and we took more than 1 month. If we want to make all the process that I present to you, we need 2-3 days in intensive processing. If you are taking all the spectral band, if you for all the 140 measurements that we are doing for each species of carrot, it's a question of time processing, and this is the main point. But after, for the spectral analysis that I made, I took, but it was discontinuous, but if I'm calculus, I need 3 months in the total to analyze each spectral range for each spectrum. It was an enormous job. And I made that with one of my masters, and she saw and she dreams all the night about about the spectrum, but she explained me. Yes, it's taking a lot of time. And this table that I show you between the links between the characteristic, the nitrate, the pH, and everything, and the spectral range took 3 months to do that, because the statistical method, we are not accurate today. Yeah, this was huge, and we made hand by hand. It was by hand. Me, I made by hand. I'm looking by hand, and I'm taking the spectrum, and I'm looking what is the right things and everything. Yes, this is why I'm explaining. If we are not making these interrelationships between the spectral response and the biophysical characteristic of the object, so we are missing something. But one day we need to do that. And when you made that, bingo, because it's really easy after with your spectral response and to know the range and to detect the characteristic, so the nitrate, the pH, or something like that, or the conductivity, or the electrical conductivity. But we need to put everything hands by hands. And it's not so it's not so interesting. It's a bit boring, but we have to do. We have to do. And when it's made, we are very happy because we are taking the spectral range and we are detecting automatically what we need.
Okay.
But I'm fully agree with you. If you have an army of master students that are going to paid and that are going to conduct and to explain them the method, it would be faster, but we have this element that we have to work by hands. And what is very interesting as well, when I'm looking what my colleagues from the NASA we are doing, we developed some software that in fact is really interactive by hands. And we are working like that since 25 years.
Yeah. Okay,
so it's not,
yeah, okay. Professor Bastian, yeah, it is, I assume, my question from me. You did t-test, right? Analysis t-test for your data.
Yeah.
Yes. So after you get t-test result from your, like, maybe from nitrate content, maybe from ORP or what I forgot the one. This is it mean about statistically analysis.
Yeah.
So it is make a difference. Make sense in analysis for t-test. I mean.
For test analysis, but I understood rightly. If I understand rightly, yes, so we made the test for each step, in fact, and for each chemistry element, because the idea was really to see what is possible, and even the level of accuracy was good, because the main idea is to intercorrelate the spectrum response than the chemistry. And it was the approach that we made, and in fact this approach is derivated about the approach that we developed, in fact, to make the links between the DNAs and the spectral response that we made on the trees, for example. Yeah, and it's what we did. Absolutely. And the question is, we have some very good accuracy. Of course, we have some very good accuracy, and especially we have some very good accuracy when you are measuring the spectral response that you can have in the dark room with what my colleagues made in the chemistry lab. My question is, if we are developing that in the real environment where we have some more interaction with the type of soil and everything, what will be? And this is what about I am working, and now actually I'm working about the soil quality, because the soil quality is a deep question in terms of influence or interaction for the carrot mostly, less for the salad or for the fruits, because they're on the surface. Yeah. So this is what we did. And we choose, in fact, the best method where what we have, in fact, the best accuracy. And in fact, when you are looking all the literatures about the colleagues and we are doing that, we are using always the same types of test, of statistical test. Is what I'm
Okay.
I can say more because what will be interesting, of course, it will be when, for example, you are working on the roof materials, for architectures, for the civil engineering and everything. Is not the same approach that we are developing, and we are not using the test as we are using there. Here is possible because we are in the lab, in the laboratory approach. But when you are in airborne and everything, you have a lot of types of interaction that we have, and we're not using this type of test. And this is not the term, but if I would have time, I just would like to show you, if you are using these types of statistical tests in airborne to detect the different types of species. I can't to show you because I already made some presentations about that. You will see one very funny thing. The statistical tests are always super accurate, perfect, nothing to say. But when you are looking what is the types of measurement of the types of species, there are no links. With the types of species that is detected, the statistical accuracy and the reality of the field. This is why I'm sorry for people doing statistic, but statistic is a cycle that is working only inside and the statistic. And when we are comparing and apply that to the real world, to the geography, is not working so much. And is what about someone to say in laboratory here, things is working. Oh, you are working that in the real field, you can have some really wonderful levels of accuracy, that I show here. But you are not detecting your carrot or your salad. You can't detect some types of cultures. So, what is in the reality? Is it the statistic or is what we count or true?
Okay.
No, but it's serious, you know, because I saw that some colleagues they present me and some result. Oh, look, have an accuracy that is very useful. Look, so I detect these types of species with inside and characteristic. And when I go on the land, I say, no, I am sorry, what you detect is not the true species. These are the types of species. and your statistical accuracy has a nonsense in terms of result. This is why, at the end, I always back, as my colleagues from NASA, to a handmade approach, than to make some links between what we observe and the spectral response.
Okay. Enough. Time is up. So thank you very much.
No, I'm sorry to say that, but I'm not going to explain that is Marius. He's working in lab, is not working often in the real world.
Thank you very much, Professor Sebastian.
Oh, my contributor, but
actually, I want to ask one question again.
Please.
If I have time. In your presentation, you talk about GM distance, right?
Yes, and he was the most accurate.
It is only one technique to. I mean, one way to test. Maybe another way, like another technique. Maybe do you have for this analysis your research, your data? Only GM only or other?
Yeah, the GM distance is what will give us the best level of discrimination between the organic and not organic carrot and the species. Because we are very we have in the experimental approach, is so we are taking the different types of methods and approach, and we are testing the best.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's the way. No, we are no secret. And what we observe is that the carrot for a salad and everything, this is in fact and the GM distance that is working the best.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
So this is simple. After, I cannot tell you what will be happens in some other environment, because the questions of the environment of the cultures, we have to look if there is or not some influence. My hypothesis is yes. After, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I cannot tell you. But my hypothesis is that the environment has an influence. But we'll see. Okay. We'll see when I will be here in Indonesia. What it means.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor
Thank
Sebastian.
you very much.
I think
thanks so much again.
Ladies and gentlemen, we give applause to Professor Sebastian. Thank you very much, Professor Sebastian, and I think very amazing material today we have got from Professor Sebastian. And okay, I think webinar is today is enough. I as a moderator say thank you very much for two speakers today, and then we appreciate for your time, for your kind to share your knowledge to us. And I think our faculty say thank you very much to you and to Mr. Roda, Dr. Roda. And I think it's enough, and then I keep the chance to Pak Slametto to close this webinar. Your capes. Pak Slametto. Pak Didik say like that.
Okay.
Come here, Pak Slametto. Come
Okay.
here to close this webinar.
Professor Sebastian Gadal, on behalf of the committee of the webinar, I will close this webinar. So I wish to thank you very much for your participation in this webinar. Again, thank you very much, and we hope we will meet again in another time. Thank you very much. Au revoir. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you for the materials and the amazing discussion for today. Hopefully what we have got today can increase our knowledge about precision farming and sustainable agriculture. Finally, we will say thank you for all of the speakers moderators, and the participants who have followed the webinar till the end. On behalf of the Committee on Duty, I apologize for the wrong words and actions. Okay, see you in the next webinar. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.